That's where you don't get it, Liam said with a sly grin. You get that many people gathering in one place, camped out day and night, live streaming, making content. They've got to eat, drink, and use the bathroom, right? I bet if a few of the locals were smart, they could rent out a couple of spare rooms, and people would pay for them. Cassandra's eyes widened, her lip twitching as she shook her head. I honestly don't understand the appeal of flocking to a spectacle like this. She was born a princess, insulated from this world. They were two different realities, two different classes. It was like the old Liam, who had only ever seen a cruise ship this big on television. You don't have to understand it. You just have to know it makes money, Liam said, laughing cheerfully. He spoke into the phone. Grandma, just do as I say. I'll have the Thorns send a few bodyguards over to make sure you're safe. For the next little while, you two should probably stay home and see how things play out. Okay, all right, P15.She said, nodding and committing his words to memory. After hanging up, she turned to George. Honey, what do you think? Should we just try what Liam suggested? I think it could work. With all these people, they're bound to buy things. The convenience store at the edge of the neighborhood has that old hot dog machine they haven't used in ages. We can fire that up. And doesn't Tiger's aunt next door do crafts? We can ask her to make some local trinkets to sell. George Xiao wasn't sure if these people would actually buy anything, but as he looked at the long line of cars outside, he finally sighed. Fine, we'll do it Liam's way. Let's start making some calls. Martha nodded and hurried off to the phone. Within a day, the neighborhood's retirees and stay-at-home residents had all been mobilized, setting up stalls along the main road. The convenience stores at the entrance to the neighborhood were doing brisk business, their hot dog rollers spinning nonstop. Women who hadn't worked in years dusted off their crafting skills and started weaving small toys and trinkets through the night. The visitors were mostly young people, exactly the type to appreciate this kind of thing. And since most of them wanted to feel some connection to Liam, the merchandise flew off the makeshift shelves. The impromptu vendors sold out of everything they had and had to scramble to contact suppliers for more. Back in Boston, Carl Sawyer had been planning a year-end vacation with his wife and kids, but a single phone call brought him rushing back. Carl, we're getting tons of calls from the P15.She neighborhood in Quincy. They need snacks, everything. You're not going to capitalize on this gold rush. A few other factory owners Carl did business with had all called him. Carl paused. P15.She, Quincy. The name sounded familiar. What's the situation exactly? He asked into the phone. It's that factory guy from the internet. You know, that handsome kid you hired to do the live streams? He's blown up online, and now a huge crowd has descended on his hometown. The whole neighborhood is trying to set up shop and needs inventory. Factory guy. Carl's body tensed as an image of Liam flashed in his mind. He quickly opened his phone and checked the latest headlines. When the photos loaded, he froze. It was Liam, the good brother who had helped him out of that huge jam. Holy cow. Carl scrolled down, and sure enough, he saw news reports about the massive lines of people outside the P15.She neighborhood. He scrolled further and found live feeds from people trying to cash in on the viral trend. An idea sparked in Carl's mind. This was an opportunity. He swallowed hard, found Liam's number in his contacts, and after a moment's hesitation, he dialed. The next day, it was time for their daily prenatal ritual. Liam rubbed his hands together, about to place them on Cassandra's stomach when his phone started ringing again. Cassandra's eyes narrowed. Her patience was clearly wearing thin. Still, she managed to keep her voice level. Who was it this time? Liam scratched his head, surprised by the caller ID. Carl Sawyer. My old boss. Cassandra raised an eyebrow, a flicker of interest in her eyes. Oh, your old boss is calling you? Sounds like he needs a favor. She had hit the nail on the head. Even without answering, Liam could guess what it was about. He remembered Carl's factory was in Boston, and that Carl had even arranged a car to take him and Chloe's mother back to Quincy. Seeing the news, of course he would call. Liam gave Cassandra an apologetic smile and answered the phone. Carl, what's up? No need for pleasantries between brothers. Liam got straight to the point. Hearing Liam's voice again, Carl couldn't hide his excitement. Hey, it's been a while. I was wondering if you had some time. Brandon and I wanted to see you, have a few drinks, catch up. It had been so long, Carl felt a little awkward asking for a favor directly. A glint appeared in Liam's eye. Come on, man. We don't need to be so formal. Just tell me what you need. Seeing he couldn't hide it, Carl sighed and came clean. I saw the news online. I heard the folks in the P15.She neighborhood are all setting up stalls, and I figured my factory's been a bit slow lately, and we make snacks. I was thinking we could work together. A win-win, you know. He quickly added, the year is almost over. You're out there living the high life, brother, but I'm just trying to make a little extra to have a good holiday season. Why let a stranger profit from this? Carl had helped him out before, and Liam wasn't about to hand this opportunity to someone else. Without hesitation, Liam smiled. No problem at all. Here's what we'll do. I'll talk to my grandfather and have the locals get their supplies from you. My grandfather still has a lot of pull in the neighborhood. If he says the word, it's a done deal. P15.She had worked his whole life for a little bit of pride. This was a perfect opportunity to boost his grandfather's confidence. Times were changing, and his grandfather's old business was struggling. If this could shift his focus, it would be a good thing. Hearing Liam's answer, Carl's face lit up. I knew I could count on you, brother. Okay, it's a deal then. I'll start getting things ready on my end. Sounds good, Liam said, hanging up with a smile. Cassandra, who had been listening to most of the conversation, raised an eyebrow. She looked at Liam with a newfound appreciation. I have to say, I'm impressed you managed to rally all these people together. When you're out in the world, friends are all you have, Liam said with a sheepish grin. If anyone else had said that to him, he would have taken it as a compliment. But this was Cassandra Thorne, the woman who controlled half of New York City. Next to her, his little schemes felt like child's play. He was pretty sure she was just teasing him. And you're so humble, too, Cassandra said, smiling at him. Her eyes were bright with genuine happiness. She hadn't made a mistake with him. The more she looked at her husband, the more capable he seemed, and he was so modest about it. They were on completely different wavelengths. Liam, still thinking she was mocking him, quickly said, Anyway, I should call my grandpa. I'll go put on some music. Back in Quincy, P15.She stared at his phone for a long time after Liam's call. Finally, he opened his contacts and started dialing, one number at a time. Just as Liam predicted, when the residents of P15.She heard that one of their own could be their supplier, they were ecstatic. Everyone eagerly contacted Carl Sawyer. Having profited from their last venture together, Carl didn't get greedy this time. He immediately called a meeting with several other local factory owners, and they all agreed to prioritize supplying the P15.She neighborhood for the time being. Neither side rested. The more viral Liam became online, the more people flocked to Quincy. The more onlookers there were, the better business was for the roadside stalls. Now that they had a reliable supplier, a complete commercial ecosystem had formed. Other companies couldn't even get a foot in the door. They could only watch from a distance. It was a whirlwind of connections and cash flow. During the few days Liam spent on the cruise ship, P15.She relentlessly posted videos of their daily lives to her social media account, sparking a nationwide trend. A few days later, Liam, Cassandra, and the others were back at the estate. The residents of P15.She had made a small fortune. As the initial hype died down and the crowds thinned, the villagers showed up at the She family's door, bearing gifts to thank George. George, who had always cared about his reputation, was lavished with praise and walked around with a constant, cheerful grin, his spirits seemingly restored to his younger days. Martha was just as happy. The village didn't need their help as much anymore. With their earnings, the villagers had seed money and were already discussing whether they should start a proper factory. Martha and George finally realized it was time for them to retire. As the days passed, the date of the royal banquet drew closer. Carol, delighted by her father's cheerful phone calls, was thrilled. She had originally started posting the videos for her family to see, a way to document their lives for when they got older, but she never expected them to have such an impact. The thought of turning their life in the UK into a daily vlog series grew stronger. Liam, I'm going with you all today. I want to shoot some more video. Carol, who hadn't planned on going, spoke up. Of course, Liam said with a nod. But try not to film anyone's face at the banquet. This is the UK, and they have strict image rights. Don't worry, Carol promised with a smile. I'll only film us. I won't point the camera at anyone else. The royal motorcade arrived early to pick them up, but leading the procession was Natalie, Ethan Vance's mother. When Natalie saw Liam and Cassandra emerge together, she froze. Miss Thorne is coming as well? She asked, her brow furrowed as she stared at Cassandra. Liam raised an eyebrow, trying to decipher the meaning behind her words. He smiled. The monarch invited the Thorne family as well. Weren't you aware, Madame Natalie? How could she have known? After talking with her father, Lord Charles, she had already begun making arrangements for a match between Liam and Madison Meyer of the Meyer Corporation. As a British native, Madison had no objections to an arranged marriage. After all, it was a great opportunity to meet people, and had readily agreed to meet Liam. But now the Thornes were here, with Cassandra right beside him. What was she supposed to do? Natalie's brow tightened. She cursed her father internally for not telling her the Thornes were coming. She could have made a backup plan. Is Madame Natalie not pleased to see the Thorne family? Caleb Thorne's voice was cold. As the patriarch of the Thorne family, dressed to the nines for the event, he did not appreciate the unwelcoming attitude. Not at all, Natalie said, waving her hands dismissively. but her eyes shot a cold glare at Liam before she smiled again. Liam's leg is still giving him trouble. Why don't you ride with me, Liam? Mr. Thorne, you and your family can take the car behind us. Since Natalie was Lord Charles's daughter, a princess of the royal family, she had already made a concession. Caleb couldn't be too harsh. He looked at Cassandra. Cassandra, what do you think? Cassandra was not one to miss the bigger picture. It was just a matter of seating arrangements. More importantly, she sensed that this Natalie woman was up to something. But they were representing the royal family. They wouldn't dare do anything to Liam in plain sight. After a moment's thought, Cassandra said coolly, "We'll ride in the back. We'll all be at the same place soon enough." Her answer surprised Liam. He glanced at her, and as their eyes met, he understood her thinking. Natalie wanted a chance to get him alone. Fine. The royal family would be responsible for whatever happened. They might as well see what she was planning. Liam squeezed Cassandra's wrist. "See you in a bit." The group split up and got into the cars. Natalie's expression darkened. As soon as Liam was in her car and they were moving, she pulled out her phone and typed out a message. Soon, the car arrived at the royal residence. The vehicles carrying the Thorne and She families drove directly to the entrance of the main banquet hall. Liam's car, however, drove into a smaller, private villa on the grounds. "Liam, let's get out here first," Natalie said with a smile as the car stopped. "I have to take care of something here, and then we can go over together." It was all royal property, and the two buildings weren't far apart. Only a 10-minute walk. Liam raised an eyebrow and allowed the attendants to help him out of the car. It wasn't until he and Natalie entered the living room of the private villa, and he saw the blonde woman sitting inside, that Liam knew something was wrong. "Madam Natalie, is this the young man you told me about, Liam?" The blonde woman stood up with a smile, her every movement exuding an air of nobility. Natalie smiled back. "Yes, this is him." She glanced at Liam. "Liam, my dear, I'm just going to grab something from the other room. This is Madison Meyer, heiress to the Meyer Corporation. Why don't you two get acquainted? We'll all head over together in a moment." With that, Natalie turned and walked in the back of the house. She was being so polite that Liam couldn't quite figure out her game. But they were on royal grounds. Natalie wouldn't dare try anything drastic. And one doesn't slap a smiling face. If she had been forceful, Liam could have pushed back, but now he was trapped. As the blonde woman approached, Liam instinctively gripped the wheels of his chair and rolled back slightly. Seeing this, Madison Meyer didn't press closer. She simply sat on the nearest sofa and smiled. "I heard from Grandpa Charles. How is your leg?" "It's okay. I'm starting physical therapy soon. With Dr. Aiden on the case, it won't be an issue," Liam replied casually. Madison nodded, her gaze falling on the fruit platter on the table. "You just got here. Would you like some fruit?" With none of his own people around, Liam wasn't about to eat anything. He waved his hand with a smile. "I already ate before I left." "I see." Madison didn't press the issue. Most people ate something before a major event anyway. Although food was served at the banquet, no one attended a royal function with eating as their top priority. After a long moment of silence, Liam, anxious to get back to Cassandra, was about to make an excuse to leave when Madison spoke first. "I've heard your story. My family also built our business from the ground up, so I understand the struggles you've been through." The subtext was clear. "I think you're impressive." Westerners were generally more direct, and with that one sentence, Madison laid her cards on the table, openly expressing her admiration. Though beauty standards varied, even in a wheelchair, the talented Liam radiated a refined elegance that complemented his handsome features, a combination often lacking in Western men. From the moment she saw him, Madison had been taken with him. Combined with his royal lineage, she was very interested in getting to know him. Liam understood what she was saying, but he was confused. Weren't they here for a banquet? What was this sudden introduction to a blonde beauty about? When Liam didn't respond, Madison continued directly. "Actually, I'm also from a blended family. My mother married my father later in life. So, our backgrounds are quite similar. When Madame Natalie told me about you, I was surprised. I didn't expect us to have such similar experiences." She smiled, her eyes crinkling. It was obvious she was impressed with him. The mention of Natalie's name made it click. This had to be a setup for an arranged marriage. The realization stung Liam. He remembered appearing with Cassandra before. Even if Lord Charles wasn't there, a simple background check would have revealed their relationship. Charles knew he was with Cassandra, yet he was still trying to set him up with someone else. For a moment, Liam couldn't grasp their intentions. Even if he suspected it, he couldn't be sure. And if he just came out and asked her if this was a blind date, he'd sound like a lunatic. He pressed his lips together and decided on a more subtle approach. "Miss Meyer, it's a pleasure to meet you, but the banquet should be starting soon. I'm quite anxious to get over there." Once he was at the banquet, clinging to Cassandra, everyone would get the picture. There's still half an hour. Madame Natalie isn't back yet, so there's no rush, Madison said with a smile, pointing to his wheelchair. Don't worry, I can push you over later. If Madison pushed him and Cassandra saw it, his wife would be consumed by jealousy. He had just started to build a sense of security with her. He couldn't shatter it now. No, I can manage myself. And there are staff here, they can help, Liam said, quickly refusing. Just then, Natalie emerged from the back room, holding a bottle of red wine. Seeing Liam and Madison chatting happily, she walked over with a smile. You two seem to be getting along wonderfully. This is a wine I've been cellaring. My father is in high spirits today, so I thought I'd bring this over. But before I do, could you two do me a favor and taste it? Liam froze. Huh, Natalie explained with a smile. This wine has been aging for some time. It's one of my treasures. Today's banquet is a grand affair, and I'm worried the guests might not enjoy the taste. So please help me out. For Madison, a regular at such events, tasting wine was a common practice. She smiled and pointed to the glass in front of her. Of course, madam. Please, pool. The wine felt too sudden, and Natalie's drastically changed attitude was unsettling. So, even after she poured the wine into the glass in front of him and invited him to taste it, Liam didn't move. Strangely, Natalie didn't pressure him to drink. Was I overthinking it? Liam's brow furrowed. He couldn't figure out what these people were doing. Across from him, Madison had already taken a small sip. She nodded at Natalie and smiled. Madam, this wine is excellent. The flavor is very pure. Wonderful, wonderful. I'll have them. Take it over then. Natalie smiled and called for a servant. Oh, and could you come with me to the wine cellar? I have many more treasures stored there. Since it's a happy occasion, you can pick whatever you like. If you find something you fancy, you can even take it home. Really? Madison's eyes lit up. Although the Meyer Corporation was a major enterprise, it couldn't compare to the royal family. The royal collection was full of priceless treasures. Of course. Come, you there, Natalie said, her eyes glinting as she beckoned to a servant. Push Mr. Lynn downstairs with you. Liam's mobility was limited, and he hadn't felt any clear malice from the two women. He reasoned they wouldn't dare cause trouble on royal property. He felt the phone in his pocket and didn't refuse. Descending into the villa's subterranean wine cellar, Madison let out a gasp of awe. Even Liam, who was accustomed to the Thorne family's opulence, was stunned by the dazzling array of wines before him. In his mind, cellars were dark and musty, but this place was brightly lit, its sunken design lending it an air of mystery. If you see anything you like, you can have a servant fetch it for you later. I need to go upstairs for a moment, Natalie said with a nod. The moment she turned, her expression hardened. As she walked out of the cellar, she glanced at a servant beside her. The servant immediately understood and pulled the door shut. Tequila. Oh my God. Madison stopped in front of a cabinet. She pressed a button on the console, and a shelf rose from the sunken display, revealing a clear bottle encrusted with thousands of diamonds. Liam could hold his liquor, but he didn't know much about wine, especially not these expensive varieties. He couldn't see a price tag, only the blinding sparkle. Is this bottle very expensive? He asked, curious. Expensive doesn't even begin to describe it. This tequila appeared at an auction years ago. Look at the bottle. Those are all real diamonds, over 6,000 of them. This is a work of art. Liam was flabbergasted. He couldn't imagine the point of a bottle made with over 6,000 diamonds. But for the rich, maybe the point was simply having it in their home. Since Natalie had told them to take whatever they liked, Liam raised an eyebrow. In that case, I'll take this one. Madison froze, staring at him in disbelief. Are you sure you want this one? Of course. Didn't Madame Natalie say to take whatever we like? I'd love to taste what a 6,000 diamond bottle of tequila tastes like, Liam said with a nod, his honesty unwavering. Madison's eyes widened, and her lips twitched. She leaned closer to him and whispered, Don't you realize she was just being polite? This bottle is probably worth over $3 million. If you actually take it, she'll. Even in the UK, where people were more direct, most understood social etiquette and could tell a genuine offer from a hollow one. But Liam, what's there to be polite about? Is the royal collection going to miss one bottle of wine? A woman of Madame Natalie's stature represents the royal family. Her offer means she values us. If we take something cheap, wouldn't that be an insult to the crown? When it came to verbal sparring, Liam had never been afraid of anyone. A $3 million bottle of wine? Only a fool wouldn't take it. Madison was stunned by his argument. She looked at him intently, as if realizing he had a point. After a moment of silence, she looked at him with new respect and nodded in admiration. You're right. In that case, I should also choose something expensive. Seeing that Madison was on board, Liam grinned. That's the spirit. I can't believe it. We have similar backgrounds, yet you have such a unique perspective, Madison said, her admiration almost overflowing. At that moment, she was truly beginning to appreciate him. Liam just smiled and changed the subject. Take whatever you want. Worst case, my status is right here. You can just say, I gave it to you. In those few short exchanges, Liam had figured out. Madison wasn't on the same side as Natalie. She probably had no idea what Natalie was plotting. There was no need to make an enemy of her. But to Madison, his words sounded like a gesture of special favor. She smiled shyly at him and thanked him profusely. Thank you. Seeing the blush on her cheeks, Liam's heart sank. This was getting really awkward. He hadn't figured out why Natalie had introduced him to Madison, and he wasn't sure if this was an arranged blind date. He couldn't just come out and say he had a wife. It would be like meeting a stranger on the street, exchanging a few words, and then blurting out, hey miss, sorry, don't get any ideas, I'm a married man. It was beyond awkward. He couldn't bring himself to say it without being sure. Liam swallowed hard and could only scratch his head. Don't mention it, don't mention it. Madison smiled and continued deeper into the cellar. Liam pushed his wheelchair and followed her. Even if he didn't know what was going on, there was a fortune in liquid assets right in front of him. Natalie had said to take whatever he liked, so he was going to pick a few of the most expensive ones. What's wrong? Before he could finish his thought, he saw Madison biting her lip, her right hand clutching her chest. I don't know. I feel like I can't breathe, she said, frowning. The blush had vanished from her cheeks, replaced by a deathly pallor. The sight made Liam's heart pound. He instinctively rolled backward. Is it the air in the cellar? Maybe we should go out, Madison. Before Liam could finish, Madison's body tilted to the right. She braced herself against the table, gasping for air. He could see she was struggling to breathe. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but no sound came out. In that instant, Liam's pulse skyrocketed. He quickly pulled out his phone and dialed Dr. Aiden. The moment the call connected, he was met with the noise of music and chatter from the banquet. Dr. Aiden's voice came through, slightly muffled. Mr. Lynn, is everything all right? Dr. Aiden, you need to get to the private villa's wine cellar. Someone has collapsed. Mr. Lynn, what did you say? It's a bit loud here. I can't hear you clearly. Someone collapsed. The private villa's wine cellar. Liam repeated, emphasizing the key words. He quickly added, don't tell Cassandra yet. Understood, Dr. Aiden replied immediately. Mr. Lynn, don't panic. Perform CPR. I'm on my way now. The call ended. Madison was completely unconscious, lying on her side on the floor. Her chest rose and fell shallowly, her lips pale. It would take at least 5 minutes to get here from the banquet hall, a critical window for saving a life. No matter what, Liam couldn't just let her lie here and wait. Is anyone there? Miss Meyer has collapsed, he shouted toward the exit. But as he turned, he saw the cellar door was tightly shut. He suddenly realized this Madison Meyer was the marriage candidate Natalie had arranged for him. The moment that thought entered his mind, Liam felt a wave of dread. He remembered the glass of red wine he hadn't touched and instantly understood why Natalie hadn't forced him to drink it. He was a man with limited mobility. If the wine was drugged, it didn't matter which of them drank it. The outcome would be the same. But Natalie probably hadn't expected Madison to collapse. Liam frowned, looking at Madison. He figured she was an unwitting pawn. Otherwise, she wouldn't have drunk the wine so carelessly. He couldn't just leave her. After a moment's thought, he wheeled himself over to her side. Her breathing was faint. Aside from the shallow rise and fall of her chest, it was almost impossible to tell if she was breathing at all. Liam's expression grew serious. He bent down, but the movement pulled at the still healing bones in his leg. Liam sucked in a sharp breath. A bone injury was no joke. Thankfully, his leg was nearly healed, and the pain was manageable. He grabbed a white towel from a nearby stand, folded it neatly, and placed it over Madison's chest. Then, he laced his hands together and pressed down. After a few compressions, Madison gasped for air. Her eyes fluttered open, and she saw Liam, beads of sweat on his forehead, his hands pressing rhythmically on her chest. She struggled to speak, but knew he was saving her. Her gaze shifted down, and she saw the towel between them. A wave of warmth spread through her, and her admiration for him grew even stronger. Don't panic. Breathe slowly. I've already called Dr. Aiden. He instructed her urgently as she regained some consciousness. Madison, too weak to speak, did her best to match her breathing to his rhythm. Meanwhile, Dr. Aiden and Evelyn Reed arrived with a medical kit, racing from the banquet hall. They had made the 10-minute journey by car in less than 5. But at the entrance to the private villa, they were stopped by servants. Mister. Lynn said someone collapsed inside. It's an emergency. Let us in. Dr. Aiden yelled, sweating profusely. From nearby, Natalie, who had been waiting by the door, emerged, feigning surprise. Someone collapsed? That can't be. Liam and the others are in the wine cellar choosing wine, with servants right beside them. How could that be possible? The wine cellar? Then that's it. It's in the wine cellar. Dr. Aiden shouted, trying to rush past. But Natalie blocked his path. Dr. Aiden, do not make accusations without proof. I have been watching from here, and nothing has happened. This is a royal banquet, and this is a private royal residence. Without an invitation, I cannot allow you into the villa. Her tone was firm, wielding the authority of a princess. But Liam's call was real. As a doctor responsible for the royal family, Aiden was caught in a dilemma. Evelyn, though less familiar with the royal family's relationship with Liam, knew she represented the Thorns, and that meant her loyalty was to Cassandra. She understood perfectly. Going against Liam was going against Cassandra. She had none of Aiden's reservations. Madam Natalie, Mr. Lynn is a guest of the Thorn family, who were invited to this royal banquet. If anything were to happen to Mr. Lynn here, I'm sure the royal family would not want to see that. Since you're not certain, why not let us go in and see? The guests at this banquet are all of high status. If someone truly has collapsed inside, the royal family may not be able to bear the responsibility. Her tone was unwavering, her position clear. Aiden glanced at Evelyn, surprised by her forcefulness. In Natalie's pampered world, even a famous doctor was just a servant. She wasn't about to let her carefully laid plan be ruined so easily. And Evelyn's tone was particularly grating. I suggest you remember your place. If there is an accident, I will take full responsibility. It is not your place to lecture me. Years of repressed anger finally boiled over. A servant daring to speak to her like that was the last straw. What do we do now? Should I call Mr. Lynn again? Aiden asked, pulling out his phone. There's no time. I think we should inform Miss Thorne. She's at the banquet. She can ask the monarch directly, Evelyn said, her eyes flashing. She pulled out her phone and shot a meaningful look at Natalie. The moment she heard Charles's name, Natalie panicked. Wait. Seeing her yield, Evelyn and Aiden lowered their phones. Natalie squinted at her watch. It had been half an hour since they entered the cellar. The drug would have taken full effect by now. She had intended to leave Liam with some dignity, but since these two were so determined to barge in, perhaps that was no longer necessary. Natalie stepped aside, her face held high in arrogance. Fine, go in. Aiden and Evelyn exchanged a look and rushed forward, with Natalie close behind. At a signal from Natalie, the two servants pushed open the cellar doors. The scene that greeted them was nothing like what Natalie had expected. There was no scandalous disarray. Instead, Liam was bent over, performing CPR on the collapsed Madison, with a towel placed neatly under his hands. You're finally here. Quick, come and help. Liam waved them over as he heard the door open. Aiden and Evelyn hurried to his side. Aiden checked Madison's pulse while Evelyn opened the medical kit. Thank goodness, we're in time. Evelyn, get the syringe from my kit. Right? With two doctors on the scene, Liam's heart finally settled. He glanced over at the stunned Natalie standing in the doorway and said sternly, Madam Natalie, when Miss Meyer collapsed, why was the cellar door locked? Natalie jolted back to reality and immediately turned on the servants. Yes, what is wrong with you? Why did you lock the cellar door? Didn't you see Mr. Lynn and Miss Meyer were inside, choosing wine. Her pivot was remarkably fast. Faced with such a seamless performance, Liam was momentarily speechless. He turned back to Aiden. Dr. Aiden, have you figured out why she collapsed? Preliminary diagnosis suggests insufficient blood supply to the heart. It seems this young lady has a weak heart, Aiden explained, prepping a syringe. A heart condition? Liam was taken aback. He remembered Madison drinking the wine without a second thought. Aren't people with heart conditions forbidden from drinking alcohol? It's not an absolute rule. We generally don't recommend it, but a very small amount shouldn't have a major impact. Dr. Aiden said truthfully. I see. Liam nodded, then looked at Natalie, whose face was a mask of grim displeasure. Madam Natalie, since Miss Meyer is unwell, I suggest we move her to a room to rest. Natalie quickly agreed. Yes, of course. You lot, come quickly. Help Miss Meyer to the bedroom. Then, she turned to Liam with a saccharine smile. Thank you for the reminder, Liam, my dear. I almost forgot about that. Did she really forget? Liam didn't believe her for a second, but under the circumstances, his priority was to get to the banquet and reunite with Cassandra. He needed to find out what Lord Charles was playing at by suddenly introducing him to Madison Meyer. Evelyn, let Dr. Aiden handle things here. We're going back, he instructed. Evelyn nodded. Dr. Aiden, I'll leave the medical kit here. I'm taking Mr. Lin to the banquet. Of course. Don't worry. Miss Meyer will be fine after some rest. Aiden confirmed. With the plans set, Natalie couldn't object further, not on royal grounds with so many eyes watching. She stood by the door, her face dark, and cleared a path for Liam and Evelyn. As they left the private villa, Evelyn leaned in. Mr. Lin, I don't think Madame Natalie's intentions are simple. Liam raised an eyebrow, feigning surprise. You think so? Yes. When Dr. Aiden and I arrived after your call, she blocked the door and refused to let us in. Evelyn reported faithfully. Liam's eyes glinted. And then I told her off, Evelyn said, unapologetic. Dr. Aiden has ties to the royal family, so there are things he can't say, but I work for the Thorns. I don't have to listen to them. It was the first time Liam had seen this side of Evelyn. As expected, anyone who worked for Cassandra was an elite operator. Her words earned his respect. Mr. Lin, why don't you tell Miss Thorne about this? So she can see that woman's true colors, Evelyn asked, confused. Liam smiled. We're on our way to do just that. Besides, it's better to ask Charles first and get the full story. If Cassandra found out in that situation, she'd be incredibly worried. Evelyn's eyes widened slightly in understanding. She pushed Liam out of the villa and onto the waiting luxury SUV. Though it was a short walk to the main hall, it would be foolish not to take the car. A few minutes later, they pulled up to the entrance of the banquet hall. The hall was already filled with elegantly dressed guests, their clothes shimmering with wealth and status. The interior was a gilded spectacle, with tables adorned with pyramids of champagne flutes. Pure decadence. Though Liam was used to the Thorns' lavish parties, the sheer scale of this royal banquet was still breathtaking, if only for a moment. The banquet hadn't officially started yet. Evelyn pushed Liam through a side path to a private lounge in the back. When she opened the door, the Thorne and Xia families were already seated inside. Chloe and Leo, despite their recent exposure to wealth, were still dazzled, chatting quietly in a corner with Carol. Seeing Liam enter, Cassandra, seated on a sofa, uncrossed her legs. She was wearing a stunning gold gown that pooled around her, its sequins glittering in the light. Was it anything interesting? She asked impatiently as he drew near. Not exactly interesting. I haven't quite figured it out yet, Liam said, scratching his head, unsure how to begin. Cassandra raised an eyebrow, her gaze fixed on his face. After a long moment, she said, Then figure it out and tell me everything. I want all the details. Of course, Liam nodded with a smile. He scanned the room and then looked at Caleb Thorne. Mr. Thorne, I don't see Lord Charles. To get answers, he had to talk to the man himself. He's in his study, Caleb explained. He said he'll be over shortly and told us to wait here. There are a lot of guests today, all from major corporations. He's going to be busy. Caleb's unspoken message was a subtle reminder. This banquet isn't just for you. Be mindful. Liam understood. Right, I get it. Outside, more luxury cars pulled up. An attendant opened a door, and Theodore and Lucinda Thorne stepped out, also dressed in their finest. But unlike the other guests who were let in by banquet staff, Theodore and Lucinda were greeted by Lord Charles himself. He walked over with a broad smile. I was waiting for you. Theodore exchanged a look with Lucinda, then asked cautiously, Charles, my friend, we agreed on the phone that you'd let us come and take a look first. You didn't invite our granddaughter, did you? After Lucinda's previous encounter with Liam, she had already blacklisted him. But Charles had been persistent on the phone, and they couldn't completely shut him down. They had agreed to come, but only on the condition that it would be just the two of them, without the Thorne kids. If they had to reject the marriage proposal on the spot, Charles might lose his enthusiasm for any future dealings. A glint appeared in Charles's eyes. Relax, relax, he said with a chuckle. This is just a business reception. See, I even invited the Tafts. I have no intention of going after your Cassandra. Hearing this, Lucinda and Theodore exchanged a glance. They looked toward the villa and, sure enough, saw members of the Taft family and the Meyer Corporation, among other corporate clans. Only then did they relax and nod. Good. But my friend, your grandson's return is a joyous occasion. We brought some gifts for you to enjoy, Theodore said, gesturing toward his car. A bodyguard standing by the car stepped forward, carefully retrieving a diamond-encrusted box from the trunk. I know you love a good smoke, my friend. This is a rare vintage cigar from my private collection, Theodore announced cheerfully. Charles's eyes lit up. He signaled for an aide to take the box. You know me too well, he said, clapping Theodore on the shoulder. Come, let's go inside. I've saved you a spot. Excellent, excellent. Theodore nodded, taking his wife's arm as they followed Charles into the banquet hall. You two have a seat. I have some business to attend to in the back, Charles told them once they were settled. He then made his way to the rear lounge. Princess Anna, who had been waiting in the lounge, stood up hurriedly as Charles entered. Father, Liam did indeed arrive with Cassandra Thorne. I think the rumors are true. And a few days ago, I investigated Cassandra's wedding. Guess what I found? Charles looked puzzled. What? Anna grew even more excited. The man Cassandra married. His name was Liam. What? Charles was stunned, staring at his daughter. Are you saying the Thorne girl was already married to Liam? Yes. Anna nodded repeatedly, beaming. I was shocked when I found out. After Liam jumped from Lawrence Landon's ship into the open sea, Cassandra thought he was dead. She spent a fortune to have a master sculptor create a statue of him and insisted on marrying it. She invited so many families to witness it. Those two kids, really. Hearing the full story, Charles's eyes widened. He had invited them together with a plan in mind. If Cassandra was truly married, he would have a valid reason to persuade Liam to give up. He never could have imagined this outcome. So those two had such a deep connection from the very beginning? This was wonderful news. Charles slapped his palm in excitement. I knew something was off, and this is it. Those two kids. They were in love with each other all along and made us old folks guess. Exactly. They're a match made in heaven. We almost ruined it. Anna was overjoyed. Witnessing such a profound story was almost as moving as experiencing herself. Now that they were together, she was genuinely happy for them. But there was still one problem. Father, Cassandra's grandparents don't seem to know about this. As one of the event's organizers, Anna knew the pretense her father had used to get the two of them here. While they were thrilled, the elderly couple might not be. She had seen them outside the villa, and they hadn't looked pleased. It's fine. We'll explain everything to them privately later. Caleb and his wife must know the story. With all of us there, they won't object, Charles said, unconcerned. In that case, Anna, you can go and announce the start of the banquet. I'm going to bring Liam up on stage and introduce him properly. Of course, Spencer is at the royal residence. Outside the estate, among the dozens of parked luxury cars, a window was half open. Jessica Fong peered out, mesmerized by the magnificent scene before her. It was a level of opulence she had never seen, like a fairy tale where Cinderella dropped her glass slipper on the palace steps. Yes. Why did you open the window? Close it now. A sharp reprimand shattered Jessica's fantasy. She turned back, looking lost. Seeing that Jessica had opened the window on her own, Spencer's son grew agitated and barked an order. The driver quickly raised all the windows. Jessica was completely bewildered. Why are we closing the windows? Aren't we here for the banquet? It looks like it's about to start. Aren't we going in? She was getting anxious. After being crushed by the news of Liam's relationship and seeing the photos of him on the royal cruise ship, she knew this trip with Spencer was her last and only chance. If she didn't seize this opportunity, she would never again have a shot at meeting high society people and climbing the social ladder. But Spencer just sighed. We're on the waiting list this time. The Taft family are the invited guests. We can only go in if they give the word. Otherwise, we have no right to enter. Oh, Jessica's eyes widened, and she looked down at the expensive gown she had rented with her last bit of money and borrowed credit. Her heart sank. Does that mean I borrowed this dress for nothing? Spencer, however, didn't seem too disappointed. He looked at Jessica expectantly. I heard from the Tafts that the main focus of this banquet is the Thorne family. Isn't that powerful Miss Thorne your old classmate's girlfriend? They seem so close. Later, you can find a chance to talk to your old classmate, maybe give him a call or something, and have him come out and get us. This was Spencer's real plan. In the passenger seat, his father, Mr. Son, nodded with a smile. Yes, Jessica, you and your classmates must be very close. I remember you were the school beauty back in the day. Give him a call. Tell him we're right outside. He'll come out immediately. The older one gets, the more idealized school day friendships become. Especially for someone like Jessica, a famous beauty in high school. To run into an old classmate in a foreign country. The emotional connection would be at its peak. This was the real reason Mr. Son and Spencer had insisted on bringing her. If they could just get Liam to show his face, even if he only stood with them for 5 minutes, the Taft family would never dare to look down on them again. Their plan was flawless, at least in their minds. The two Son men chattered on, completely oblivious to the growing awkwardness on Jessica's face. The three people in the car had 3 entirely different agendas. Jessica forced a laugh and pulled out her phone, her hand trembling. Well, all right, Mr. Son, I'll give Liam a call right now. Excellent. We're counting on you. The Son stared at her with feverish intensity, already picturing the stunned faces of the crowd as Liam himself came out to greet them. Jessica lowered her head, pretending to look for his contact. In the chat history she hadn't touched in ages, she saw the glaring red exclamation mark next to her last long message, followed by the friend request he had never accepted. She swallowed hard and feigned dialing his number. As expected, the call went straight to a cold, automated message. The user was unavailable. She knew the call would never go through. A cold sweat broke out on her back. But what could she do? The two men in the car were watching her like hawks. If only a prince would suddenly appear right here. Just like in a fairy tale, where Cinderella stumbles out of the villa, disheveled and frantic, with the prince and his guards in hot pursuit. Her eyes glinted. She tightened her grip on the phone and, under the hopeful gaze of the sons, said nervously, "Maybe it's too loud inside the banquet for him to hear his phone." "That's possible, Mr. Son conceded, having been to his fair share of parties. No one kept their phone on them at all times, especially not when formal, where it wasn't designed to hold anything. Spencer, however, grew anxious. "Then what do we do now? We need to let Liam know Jessica is here," Mr. Son said pointedly, his eyes fixed on the royal guards at the main gate. Jessica swallowed hard and spoke up. "Mr. Son, Spencer, why don't I get out and try my luck? Maybe I can find a way in. All I need to do is see Liam." She offered a weak smile, even though she already knew what his answer would be. She had given up on Liam. All she wanted now was a chance to get out of the car and have a magical encounter with some other family heir. Anyone would do, as long as it meant she wouldn't have to go back to that dilapidated house. Staring at the brightly lit mansion in the distance, she couldn't bear the thought of returning home to work in a factory. "All right, be careful, Jessica, but the whole area is locked down tonight, so you don't need to be afraid," Mr. Son said, fully supportive. With his father's approval, Spencer had no objections. He nodded and signaled for the driver to open the door. Stepping out of the car, Jessica inhaled the air outside the villa. It seemed to be filled with a sweet fragrance. Compared to her own cramped, run-down home, the psychological whiplash was almost too much to bear. She walked to the main entrance, and as expected, two tall, blonde bodyguards immediately raised their hands to stop her. "Ma'am, you cannot enter without an invitation." Jessica wasn't too embarrassed. She had anticipated this. She smiled weakly and tried to explain, "I'm an old classmate of Liam's. Sirs, Liam asked me to come. It was very last minute, so he didn't have a chance to give me an invitation." "No invitation, no entry. Ma'am, we do not know who this Liam is. Please leave," the two guards said, unmoving. "You don't know him? Liam, the one with the Thorne family. Isn't the Thorne family invited to this banquet?" Jessica was stunned. The guards exchanged a look. They had heard of the Thorne family, but the name Liam meant nothing to them. They were about to question the well-dressed woman further when another black car pulled up beside them. Seeing the license plate, the two guards snapped to attention and moved to open the car door. "Madam, the banquet is about to begin. You've arrived just in time," one of them said, bowing respectfully to Natalie. Hearing the word madam, Jessica's eyes lit up. She stared at the elegant woman stepping out of the car and hurried over. "Good evening, madam. Are you Mrs. Thorne?" Natalie frowned, her eyes scanning Jessica from head to toe. Not getting a reply, Jessica assumed she was right. "Madam, hello. I'm a classmate of Liam's. He called and asked me to attend the banquet, but it was so rushed he didn't get me an invitation. Now I can't get in. Could you possibly take me with you?" Jessica's face was a mask of embarrassment. She quickly added, "Or do you have his phone number? If I could just talk to him, that would be enough." Her goal wasn't Liam anymore. If she could just get into the banquet, she could meet any number of young masters and escape her miserable life. She was sure that if she explained her situation, Liam, out of old-school tie sentiment, would help her get in. Little did she know, Natalie, already seething from her encounter with Liam, heard his name and her temper flared. "Classmate? What does he think this place is? Some dive where anyone can just walk in?" Her father hadn't even announced to the media that Liam was a royal grandson, and he was already acting like he owned the place. Natalie's patience evaporated. She shot a cold look at the guards and snapped, "What do you all pay for? She doesn't have an invitation, and you're just letting her stand here?" The smile froze on Jessica's face. The guards immediately stepped forward. "Yes, ma'am. Miss, please leave the premises," they said, forming a wall in front of her. Jessica grew frantic and, forgetting her composure, yelled, "Madam, I really am Liam's classmate. We even have photos together from high school. Miss, please leave immediately." Before she could finish, the guards blocked her path. Natalie, having no patience left to listen, had already given the order to remove her and was now striding up the red carpet into the banquet hall. As Natalie entered the banquet hall, the royal villa's event officially began. The room was a sea of high society, with exquisitely dressed ladies on the arms of their distinguished partners, all seated in the grand hall, waiting for Lord Charles to speak. Hundreds of bodyguards patrolled the perimeter, working in shifts. The brilliantly lit royal residence was under such tight security that not even a bird could have gotten in. Jessica, cast out, refused to give up. She knew this was her one and only chance to rewrite her destiny. Staring at the magnificent building, she began to circle the grounds, still clinging to the fantasy that she might find a way inside. As the music faded, Lord Charles ascended to the main stage. Liam, Cassandra, and the others took their seats below. Anna was chatting enthusiastically with them, but on the other side of the room, Natalie and Ethan sat with grim expressions. "Can you believe Ethan Vance is actually here?" Chloe was the first to spot him, muttering under her breath. Riley Thorne, who had been cheerful just a moment ago, immediately deflated. She glanced over and saw Ethan staring at her with a burning intensity. "Chloe, please don't even say his name," she whispered, disgusted. "Just chalk it up to me being blind at the time." Riley bowed her head, praying Ethan wouldn't approach her. But her prayers went unanswered. In full view of everyone, he walked right up to her. "Riley, it's been a long time." With so many eyes on them, Riley, however mortified, knew this wasn't the time or place to push him away. She bit her lip and shifted closer to Liam, remaining awkwardly silent. Seeing her silence, Ethan's face stiffened. He shot an annoyed look at Liam, and then tried again. "I've been meaning to ask, did you change your number? You haven't accepted my friend request." Riley wanted to scream. With everyone watching, did Ethan not know how to speak? He was blurting out this nonsense for all to hear. What would people think? She instinctively tugged on Liam's sleeve. Liam, who had been talking with Cassandra, felt the pull and turned. He saw Ethan standing next to Riley and instantly understood the situation. A small smile played on his lips. "Oh, Mr. Vance, the banquet is about to start. Have you not found your seat yet?" His words were a life raft for Riley. Cassandra also turned, her eyes fixed on Ethan with open hostility. Ethan's expression darkened as he noticed the many eyes on them. The Thorns were the stars of this banquet, and his decision to approach them had drawn a lot of attention. Now Liam was publicly dismissing him, a blatant slap in the face. Ethan took a deep breath. He couldn't make a scene, so he forced a cold smile. "I was just chatting with an old friend. Not like you, Mr. Lynn," with a beauty on each arm. He said it right out in the open. Instantly, the faces of the entire Thorn contingent turned to stone. Cassandra glared at Ethan, about to lash out, but Caleb held her back. She looked at her father, confused, but he gave a slight shake of his head. Cassandra clenched her jaw but held her tongue. It wasn't that Ethan was wrong. Of all the guests, only Liam was in a wheelchair, flanked by the two Thorn sisters. Next to them were Chloe, Caleb, and the others. The seating arrangement made the power dynamics crystal clear. It also sparked a flurry of whispers. "I remember Miss Thorne's fiancé was named Liam, right? The statue at her wedding looked exactly like him." "Mr. Taft, is that true? Miss Thorne was married before." "Yes. The wedding was in our country. My family was there." "Theo, you remember it best, don't you?" Todd Taft, the head of the Taft family, said with a smile, turning to his son. "Theo, you remember it best, don't you?" Theo Taft nodded eagerly, grateful for the chance to speak. "I don't know the whole story, but I remember very clearly that the statue and the groom Miss Thorne named were both called Liam. So, it seems there's quite a history between them." As the main characters of the evening, they were the subject of intense speculation. No matter where, no matter how powerful, everyone loved to watch the show. Thanks to their attendance at Cassandra's wedding, the Taft family became the second hottest topic of the night. Listening to their conversation, Ethan's face grew darker. If it weren't for them, he would never have known that Liam and the Thorns had such a long history. What did Liam take me for back then? He must have been close with Riley all along and only interfered when he heard she was getting to know him. Seeing Lord Charles walk onto the stage with a smile, Ethan had to swallow his anger and return to Natalie's side. "Mother, we can't let Liam get away with this," he hissed as soon as he sat down. Natalie looked at her disappointing son with surprise. It was rare to hear such determination from him, but what could she do now? Her marriage plot had been foiled the moment Madison Meyer had her episode. "I asked you to help earlier, and you refused," Natalie retorted. "Now he's here. What do you suggest we do?" "It's simple. Grandfather is going to announce Liam's return today. When he does, you go up on stage and say that you've already found a marriage candidate for him, and that the two of them have already hit it off. It's perfect. Everyone could see Liam was flanked by beauties. If they mentioned Madison Meyer, it wouldn't matter if she was lying in a bedroom. The moment Cassandra heard it, Liam wouldn't be able to explain his way out of it with 100 mouths. I think that will work. Your grandfather's on stage. He probably hasn't heard what they're saying. Natalie stared at the stage, took a deep breath, and made her decision. As the microphone hummed to life, Charles smiled and waved to the audience. Welcome, everyone, to this banquet. Today is a happy day, and I am hosting this event because I have two pieces of joyous news to share with you all. At previous banquets, Charles rarely took the stage himself. With the transition of power looming, Princess Anna had become the primary host. But tonight, Charles was up there in person. The moment his voice fell, the hall fell silent. Surveying the crowd, Charles's gaze settled on Liam. He took a deep breath and began to recount a story from his past. This is something I never intended to make public in my lifetime, but I never expected such a wonderful surprise. As you all know, I'm getting old and my days are numbered. So, today I have decided to share a piece of my past. Many years ago, in my student days, I met a girl from China. As if lost in the memory, Charles's eyes drifted to Liam and She, seeming to see his own long-lost love through them. Following his gaze, Theodore Thorne, who had been composed until now, frowned. Beside him, Lucinda also noticed the group seated closest to the stage. Her face paled. This is bad. Why are Catherine and Cassandra and the others here? That Charles, not an honest bone in his body. He tricked us. Theodore was furious. He had told them it would be just the two of them, and now his daughter and her family were here. What was going on? But then, Lucinda noticed the man at the center of it all. The grandson Charles had spoken of, the very man she had rejected just days ago, Liam. Lucinda's expression soured. She grabbed Theodore's arm. Honey, Charles's grandson is sitting with Cassandra. Theodore had never seen Liam before. But looking over, the only man sitting next to Cassandra was the one in the wheelchair. Could that be the grandson Charles had described as a fine, upstanding young man? The two of them had lost all interest in Charles's nostalgic speech. Theodore shot to his feet. No, our precious granddaughter is not going to marry a cripple. His voice wasn't loud, but those around them heard it. Natalie, seated nearby, noticed and raised an eyebrow, a hint of schadenfreude in her expression. Ethan, it looks like we won't have to lift a finger. Ethan had also spotted Theodore and Lucinda. He had investigated the Thorne family when he was getting to know Riley and knew they were her and Cassandra's grandparents. Seeing their fury and hearing the word cripple, he let out a derisive snort. It seems someone else doesn't want them together either. On stage, Charles had nearly finished his trip down memory lane. The guests, while surprised by his past, weren't buzzing about it. At their level, who didn't have a lost love in their past, who hadn't been reckless in their youth. But what truly shocked them was what Charles said next. A month ago, I found a child that Eleanor's sister gave birth to for me during those reckless years. Charles's gaze fell on Liam. Liam, he is my long-lost grandson, who has been adrift in the world for so many years. The room erupted in a wave of gasps and murmurs. The Taft father and son, who had been enjoying the drama, were stunned. Caleb Thorne looked at Liam in shock. Liam hadn't mentioned any of this. Cassandra, too, turned her head in rare surprise. She stared at Liam, her voice filled with disbelief. Was this what you were about to tell me? More or less? Liam scratched his head awkwardly and explained, I was planning to tell you later. I didn't expect him to announce it first. Brother-in-law, your life story is something else, Riley said, equally amazed, but her voice was filled with admiration. If the monarch hadn't said it himself, I'd never believe you had royal blood. As you can all see, Charles continued, his voice resonating through the hall. The lady seated in the front, She, is the wife of my late son, Victor. She gave me two wonderful grandchildren, Liam and Chloe. With that next declaration, the chatter grew louder. Thankfully, no media had been allowed at today's banquet. Only the highest echelons of society were privy to this news. Charles was on a roll. He beamed and continued. That is the first piece of good news. The second is about my grandson, Liam. He has reached the age of marriage, and after much consideration, I have found a suitable match for him. He looked at Liam with a broad smile. That smile sent a shiver down Liam's spine. Beside him, Cassandra's eyes turned to ice. She stared at him, as if waiting for an explanation. Caleb and the others also turned, their faces a mixture of confusion and disbelief. Given what had just happened with Natalie and Madison, Liam honestly couldn't be sure if this was real or not. But if Charles was about to name Madison Meyer as his intended bride, he would refuse without a doubt. Before Charles could say another word, Theodore Thorne was the first on his feet. He boomed, Charles, I do not consent to this marriage. His voice was powerful, echoing through the silent hall. Hundreds of pairs of eyes turned to him. Charles was stunned. His old friend wouldn't even let him finish his sentence. Were they that opposed to Liam? A cold smile touched Natalie's lips. She whispered to Ethan, "Looks like we don't have to do a thing." Lucinda also walked over to Cassandra's side, declaring righteously, "Charles, my granddaughter is the treasure of our Thorne family. We will never, under any circumstances, agree to have her marry Liam." Now, it wasn't just Liam who was dumbfounded. The entire Thorne family was in shock. Catherine grabbed her mother's arm, her face etched with panic. "Mother, what are you and Dad doing?" "Catherine, don't be afraid. No matter what, your father and I will not allow Cassandra to be wronged," Lucinda said, patting her daughter's hand reassuringly. How could she possibly relax? Caleb was equally baffled. They came to a banquet, and suddenly his father-in-law and mother-in-law were here, causing a scene. Finally snapping out of his shock, Liam looked from the bewildered Cassandra to the resolute Lucinda. He slowly raised a trembling hand and pointed at Lucinda and Theodore, his voice filled with disbelief. "Cassandra, they are your grandparents." "Right." Cassandra nodded, then looked at Liam as if she'd just realized something. "You've met them." Met them was an understatement. The elegant woman who had just stormed in was the same one who had come to warn him against the marriage. It all clicked into place for Liam. He gave a wry smile. "I told you before that an older woman came to see me, told me to refuse the engagement. It was her." Cassandra's eyes went wide. She had been happy, no, ecstatic, when Liam told her he'd refused. But now he was telling her the person who'd convinced him to say no was her own grandmother. Cassandra suddenly remembered the phone call from her grandmother, Lucinda, about the very same engagement. She had refused without a second thought. No wonder. No wonder her grandmother had sounded so delighted when she'd said no, promising she wouldn't be disappointed this time. Her grandmother had already met Liam. The marriage she wanted her to refuse was to her own husband. For a split second, Cassandra's brain short-circuited. What in the world was going on? As Cassandra's closest family, Lord Charles couldn't believe Lucinda and Theodore were unaware of the history between their granddaughter and Liam. He assumed they simply had a personal vendetta against the boy. His face darkened. "Theodore, I wasn't finished. The least you could do is hear me out. There's no need. I will never agree to let Cassandra marry Liam." Theodore's tone was absolute, cutting off Lord Charles completely. Lucinda turned on her daughter and son-in-law. "Catherine, Caleb, look at this mess you've made. You didn't even bother to investigate before showing up. Your granddaughter is about to be sold off, and you're here helping them count the money." Her words were harsh, a public rebuke in front of New York's elite. But she had no idea that Catherine and Caleb were just as confused as everyone else. Lord Charles's face was beet red with fury. He never imagined they would stand up and publicly reject him like this. It was a slap in the face. Ahem, cough, cough. He broke into a violent coughing fit, his face a terrifying shade of crimson. From the audience, his daughter, Natalie, rushed to the stage, steadying him. "Mr. and Mrs. Thorne, I believe there's been a misunderstanding," Natalie announced, her voice projecting across the silent room. "The engagement my father was referring to was not for your family." At her words, Lucinda and Theodore froze. Cassandra was done with the whole fiasco, but Natalie's statement made her raise an eyebrow. She looked at Liam, a thoughtful glint in her eyes. Liam cleared his throat awkwardly, his mind racing. Just wait, he thought. Wait for her next sentence. He needed Natalie to admit, in front of everyone, that Madison Meyer was the intended bride. Only then could he refuse. As if on cue, Natalie's voice rang out again, laced with a smug, theatrical smile. "The heiress of the Meyer Corporation is already waiting in the private villa next door. Liam just met with her, and they had a wonderful chat. Madison Meyer is the one we intended for him to marry." The words landed like stones. A wonderful chat, was it? Cassandra's voice was quiet, but it cut through the room. Her dangerous gaze settled on Liam, her eyes instantly turning cold as ice. "So that's where you were for so long, chatting with Miss Meyer." She was smiling, but it was the smile of a predator, promising to devour him whole. "Damn, brother-in-law, you're playing with fire," Riley whispered from beside him, breaking out in a cold sweat. She stared at Liam, in awe of his sheer audacity. Liam ignored them, his focus locked on the scheming woman on stage. "Mrs. Natalie, I think you're mistaken. Cassandra and I have been together for a long time. Besides, didn't you just ask me to help you select some wine? How did that turn into an engagement with Miss Meyer?" He'd been holding that in, waiting for the perfect moment to say it. Natalie had finally shown her hand. It was just as he'd suspected. She was the one pulling the strings. Judging by Lord Charles's stunned expression, he was completely out of the loop. Despite the public refutation, Natalie remained composed. "Liam, didn't you and Miss Meyer seem to be getting along splendidly?" The two of you were selecting wine alone in the cellar. I just thought you had good chemistry. Alone in the cellar. The words hit Cassandra like a physical blow. She narrowed her eyes, giving Liam a long, searching look, but she didn't lash out. She remembered him rushing back, saying the time wasn't right. Now it must be. So she waited. She was waiting for Liam's explanation. Words from outsiders would only make her angry, but the real story had to come from him. If he didn't tell her himself, it would just be anger. Nothing more. Liam glanced at Evelyn, who was standing quietly in a corner, then raised an eyebrow at Natalie, a sly smile playing on his lips. I believe you've misunderstood, ma'am. The air in the cellar was rather poor. Miss Meyer had a sudden heart episode and fainted almost as soon as she went in. I don't know if the soundproofing was too good or what, but I shouted for a long time and no one came. Thankfully, Dr. Aiden and Evelyn arrived just in time. Some things weren't meant for a public stage. Liam's insinuation was enough to extinguish Natalie's arrogant fire. Outsiders might not know, but she knew perfectly well why Madison Meyer had a heart episode, and it had nothing to do with the air quality in a meticulously maintained royal wine cellar. He was threatening her. Dr. Aiden and Evelyn had shown up too quickly before she could react. If they revealed what they'd found in Madison's system, her reputation would be ruined right here, right now. Fearing public exposure, Natalie finally backed down with a forced, cheerful laugh. Oh, is that so? I just thought you two were hitting it off. It seems I misread the situation. Natalie was smart enough to know when to quit. Beside her, Princess Anna stepped forward, giving her sister a displeased look. But for the sake of the family's image, she sided with her. Father's intention has always been to bring Liam and Cassandra together. Little sister, I think you truly did misunderstand. But it's not too late to fix this. She turned to Liam. Liam, we all know about you and Cassandra. This banquet was held for two reasons. First, to announce your identity to everyone, and second, to choose an auspicious date for you and Cassandra to get engaged. And just like that, the spotlight swung back to Cassandra and Liam. Lucinda and Theodore looked like they wanted to protest again, but Catherine cut them off. Mom, Dad, stop making things worse. Come with me. I need to talk to you too. The two elders exchanged a look, saw the entire room staring at them, and reluctantly followed Catherine to a back hall, holding their tongues for now. The moment they were alone, Catherine's temper flared. What is wrong with you two? Why didn't you tell us you were coming? Caleb and I had no idea, and now you've caused this enormous scene. Lucinda's face stiffened. Catherine, is that any way to speak to your father? We didn't know you were coming either. Besides, everything we did was for Cassandra's own good. Having heard that line her entire life, Catherine finally snapped. For her good? Mom, Dad, do you have any idea about Liam and Cassandra's relationship? They've been together for ages. That wedding you missed last time? The man she was marrying was Liam. Lucinda's eyes shot open. Theodore was equally stunned. You're saying it was really him? Not just two people with the same name? No. After a few sharp exchanges, Catherine realized just how crossed their wires had become. She took a deep breath to calm herself. Mom, Dad, I don't know why you have such a strong prejudice against Liam. Caleb and I have known about them for a long time. We've tested him. His father was Victor Lynn's old brother-in-arms. This boy is absolutely not what you think he is. We've seen their love for each other with our own eyes. Catherine's words were raw and tinged with an undeniable anger. Theodore and Lucinda looked at each other. After a long moment, Theodore spoke first. Lucinda, what was it you said about Liam's character? What happened? He admitted it himself, that he planned to leech off the woman. Lucinda said weakly, her face pale. I thought he was after our family's fortune. Catherine laughed, a bitter, frustrated sound. Mom, you really let your imagination run wild. Let me tell you something. Cassandra gave Liam a mountain of assets, and he didn't want any of it. In fact, Caleb spends his days trying to trick Liam into managing the company so he can take over his job. Theodore was speechless. Lucinda, you didn't tell me that part. And wait, the boy is Lord Charles's own grandson. Why on earth would he be after our money? Scolded by both of them, Lucinda finally understood the magnitude of her mistake. She apologized profusely. Catherine sighed. Outside of the Thorne family, she understood her parents best. Her own family hadn't been wealthy. Her circumstances had changed only after marrying Caleb. It was natural for her parents to be wary of outsiders coveting their wealth. She softened. Mom, don't apologize to me. You need to think about how to apologize to Liam. She couldn't help but add another jab. And honestly, if you were going to meet him, you should have told me first. If you had, this whole misunderstanding wouldn't have gotten so deep. Now Lucinda truly realized her error. She looked to Theodore for help. He sighed heavily. It seems this was all a misunderstanding. After the banquet, your mother and I will apologize to Liam together. When they returned to the banquet hall, Lord Charles was gone from the stage. Liam, Cassandra, and the rest of their family were no longer in the center of the room. Music had started, and the high society guests were mingling as if the earlier speech had been a dream. The only difference was that the main topic of conversation had shifted to the business of an alliance between the Thorns and the royal family. The central dance floor was already filling up. "Ma'am, Mr. Thorn and the others have gone to the reception room," Evelyn said, approaching Catherine respectfully. "Good. Let's go join them." Catherine nodded, knowing everyone would be waiting for them. In the reception room, the atmosphere had shifted from tense to lively. Caleb Thorne was looking at Lord Charles with mock reproach. "Your Majesty, why didn't you tell me about this engagement business sooner? Catherine and I, and the kids, we had no idea. It caused a huge mess. I wanted it to be a surprise." Lord Charles chuckled, his gaze landing expectantly on Liam. "Grandpa really hopes you'll come back." "No way. My brother-in-law can't go back," Riley declared, munching on a piece of cake. "If he did, he'd have to change his name, wouldn't he?" She then pointed at Chloe, her eyes wide. "Does that mean from now on, you'd have to be called Chloe Lewis?" Puffed. Leo, who had just taken a sip of water to calm his nerves after the earlier drama, sprayed it everywhere. Even Cassandra couldn't hold back a laugh. She stared at Liam, picturing it. Lewis, Lynn. The image was too ridiculous to contemplate. Chloe's face was a mask of stiff embarrassment. She stood frozen, looking helplessly between her mother and Liam, praying they wouldn't agree. "It sounds quite nice," Princess Anna chimed in with a smile, completely missing the joke. "If a single name is too simple, you could add a few more. Father has always hoped you would return." Liam silently wiped a bead of sweat from his forehead. He never thought his common, run-of-the-mill name would one day be saddled with such a high-class English brand. "So, what do you say, Liam? Come back. Get familiar with the family's affairs. When Anna gets older, you'll be in a perfect position to take over from her." Lord Charles's eyes shone with hope. He seemed completely obsessed with the idea of Liam's return. He was so absorbed, in fact, that he failed to notice the thunderous expressions on Natalie and Ethan's faces in the corner of the room. Of course, Natalie thought, her fists clenching. That's his ultimate goal in bringing Liam back, to have him inherit everything. Putting aside Liam's mixed blood, his current identity alone would cause a media firestorm if he were to take control of the royal family. But her father didn't seem to care. Was he planning to let the entire monarchy crumble in Liam's hands? Natalie's knuckles were white, her sharp nails digging into her palms. Her expression was venomous. "No, it's not possible. I will not let him get away with this so easily. Take over the royal family? He'll have to step over my dead body first. Father, this misunderstanding was all my fault. I'll go check on Madison first," Natalie said, forcing a smile at the cheerful group across the room. Lord Charles didn't even look up, waving a dismissive hand to signal she could leave. The blatant disregard sent a surge of rage through Natalie's chest. She took a deep breath, plastered on another smile, nodded to the room, and left with Ethan. "Mother, we absolutely cannot let Liam come back," Ethan hissed the moment they were in the hallway, his face pale. For once, mother and son were in perfect agreement. Natalie's eyes were dark as she nodded grimly. "Don't worry, I won't let him return so easily. But Mom, Father is so focused on him now, and his marriage to the Thorns is probably a done deal. What can we do?" Ethan was kicking himself for not acting sooner. He'd thought it would be simple, but now he saw that Liam had been planning this all along. He was the only one who had been so naive. "A done deal, so what?" Natalie's voice was cold as ice. "Someone with his mixed blood wants to take over the royal family? It's not just us who won't agree. The entire country won't stand for it." A glint appeared in Ethan's eye. A plan began to form. "So you're saying I should leak the news from tonight's banquet and let the public oppose it?" "No." Natalie shook her head, her face ashen. "Looking at your grandfather now, he'd probably push it through even with nationwide opposition. And if everyone knew, the damage to our family's reputation would be immense. Then what do we do? Are we just supposed to stand by and watch Father bring Liam back to take over everything?" Ethan was frantic. His life was good now, but if Liam took over the family business, given their history, his future would be bleak. Natalie bit her lip, her gaze turning venomous. She glanced at the bustling servants around them and clenched her fists. "Then he needs to die?" Ethan was horrified. "What? Only if he's dead will your grandfather give up this fantasy." Natalie's voice was firm, as if she could already see Liam's demise. Though he was still shaken from his last failure, Ethan knew his mother was right. Only with Liam dead could they live in peace. Only then would he have a chance to get close to the thorns. With that thought, Ethan's tone hardened. He looked directly at his mother. Mom, what should I do? Not yet. Staging an accident isn't that simple, Natalie said, scanning their surroundings. This was clearly not the place to talk. She gestured with her head. You go entertain the guests for now. We'll discuss it after the banquet is over. Ethan nodded heavily. Okay. Inside the reception room, Lord Charles was staring at Liam with burning intensity. It was the second time he'd invited Liam to rejoin the royal family. Facing the varied gazes of the room, Liam's answer remained unchanged. He smiled. Your Majesty, I believe I made myself clear last time. I have no desire to return, and I've already explained my reasons. You don't need to ask again. Chloe let out a quiet sigh of relief. Carol Sia just smiled without saying a word. Cassandra, for her part, had no opinion on his choice. Whether he returned to the royal family or not, he was still Liam. He was her husband. All she wanted was him. Lord Charles's hopeful expression finally fell into one of disappointment. He sighed, but didn't press the issue. Instead, he looked at Liam and Cassandra and smiled. In that case, I will arrange your engagement party. That's acceptable, isn't it? Liam instinctively looked at Cassandra. Caleb Thorne chuckled happily. The two kids really should set a date. That last wedding doesn't count. How could that count as a wedding? Theodore and I weren't even there. We have to have a do-over, a proper one. Lucinda chimed in. Now that the misunderstanding was cleared up, she had no issue with Liam, but the wedding had to be done right and beautifully. I agree. Another ceremony is a great idea. Only Leo and I were there last time. Mom couldn't even come because she was sick. Now that she's better, you can never have too many happy occasions. Chloe added. Carol Sia nodded with a smile, her eyes on Liam and Cassandra filled with approval and anticipation. Liam glanced at Cassandra, then said slowly, Actually, Cassandra and I were already planning another wedding, but we wanted to wait a little longer, maybe around the new year. By then, his leg would be mostly healed, and Cassandra's pregnancy would be more stable. He wouldn't have to worry so much about her going through a full day of wedding festivities. Then let's have the engagement party first. There's no conflict there. Lord Charles said with a laugh, his mind clearly made up. Yes, we could do the engagement party first. No need to delay. Let's get it done in the next few days, get the official process started. Theodore chimed in, looking at Liam apologetically. The elders went back and forth, completely ignoring the couple's opinions. Liam looked helplessly at Cassandra. I guess we don't get a say in this. An engagement party first isn't a bad idea, Cassandra said, raising an eyebrow. Her tone was flat, but her voice was laced with a smile. In this moment, of course, his wife's word was law. Liam immediately smiled and nodded. Okay, I agree. Whatever my dear wife says goes. The words made Cassandra's heart swell with pleasure. Though she didn't say anything, she held her head high, the picture of smug satisfaction. Outside the villa, Jessica Fong had been pacing for what felt like an eternity, unable to find a way in. Her feet were rubbed raw, and her high heels kept sinking into the soft soil, nearly tripping her several times. Defeated, she finally took off her shoes and sat on the ground, feeling utterly helpless. Just then, she heard a man's voice coming from the woods. A shiver ran down her spine. She scrambled to her feet and hid behind a tree. Yeah, I'm outside. My head's a mess, just came out for a smoke. Mom, just stop. I'll help figure something out. No matter what, I'm not going to let Liam live happily. The name Liam had become a nightmare for Jessica. The second she heard it, she stood up straighter. Fueled by some unknown courage, Jessica slowly shifted her weight, only to step squarely on a sharp rock. Pain shot up from the sole of her foot, and she let out a sharp, involuntary gasp. Ethan, who had just hung up the phone, was startled by the sound behind him. He spun around to see a beautiful woman sitting pathetically on the ground. Unsure if she had overheard what he'd just said, his eyes turned cold, and he slowly approached. The menace rolling off him terrified Jessica. She scrambled backward on her hands and feet, begging, Don't kill me. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. Noticing her dress wasn't exactly high-end, Ethan frowned. Who are you here with? Jessica trembled, the Sun family name flashing through her mind. But they couldn't even get through the gate of the royal estate. Mentioning them would mean nothing to this man. An idea sparked. The Taft family. I'm a business partner of the Tafts. They brought me here. The Tafts. Ethan murmured the name, a thoughtful look on his face. Then why are you out here? Didn't they take you inside? A flicker of inspiration hit Jessica. She pointed to her ankle, her face a mask of misery. They did, but my shoes were killing me. I was looking for a bathroom change, but this estate is so huge. I got lost as soon as I came outside. As she spoke, she managed to squeeze out a couple of tears. With anyone else, this story might have raised suspicions, but Ethan had a soft spot for a damsel in distress. He thought for a moment, put his phone in his pocket, took one last drag from a cigarette, and stubbed it out on the ground before slowly walking toward her. The royal estate was built out in the suburbs for security. It's all woods around here, with only the main gate leading back to the city. It's no wonder you got lost. Ethan didn't overthink it. He crouched down and carefully took her ankle in his hand to examine it. The warm touch sent a shiver through Jessica, a current of warmth spreading through her. She didn't sense any malice from him. A Cinderella fantasy bloomed in her mind, and her gaze softened. Staring at the impeccably dressed man, she couldn't help but ask, "Sir, I heard you mention Liam." On the phone, her voice was small, tentative. Suddenly, the hand on her ankle tightened. Ethan's eyes snapped up, his gaze sharp and focused on her. "Yes." Jessica gasped in pain and rushed to explain. "Sir, don't misunderstand. I'm a classmate of Liam's. From what you were saying, you seem to really hate him." At her explanation, Ethan froze. He stared at her. Liam's classmate. He didn't understand what she was getting at, but he never expected a smoke break to turn into this. Seeing his silence, Jessica took it as confirmation of his hatred for Liam. To show they were on the same side, she quickly added, "Don't worry, sir. I know a lot of his dirty secrets. A lot of people at our school hated him. He used to be the school bully, always picking on the younger students. So many of us couldn't stand him." Visibly, Ethan's eyes lit up. It was easy to look up someone's history, to pull up their official record. But digging up the dirty little secrets from every stage of their life was nearly impossible. There were too many ways to whitewash a past. Only someone who had been there could speak with such detail. Just as he was struggling to find a weakness to exploit, Ethan felt a surge of energy. He quickly helped Jessica to her feet. "Your ankle is pretty swollen. I should take you to a room to rest." Jessica was thrilled. It was worth wandering around outside the villa for 3 hours. She had finally found her way in. This proved her guess was right. This man truly hated Liam. He was one of her own. Leaning on Ethan's arm, Jessica finally stepped into the magnificent royal villa she had dreamed of. Once inside a room, she was stunned. The walls were covered in priceless art. The design was opulent and dazzling, and every corner radiated the scent of money. This was the life she was meant to have. Fate was finally smiling on her. Jessica suppressed her excitement as she watched Ethan return with a first aid kit and silently begin treating her ankle. Biting her lip, she knew this was the only chance she would ever get. She took the initiative. "Sir, if there's anything I can do to help, please just ask. If I can, I will do everything in my power." She was desperate to prove her allegiance. Ethan's eyes glinted. He looked up, testing her. "What if I wanted you to help me kill Liam?" "Hiss." The question made Jessica flinch, pulling her foot back. The small movement sent a jolt of pain through her ankle, and she winced. Seeing her reaction, Ethan laughed. "Look at you, so timid. I was just joking. You didn't really think I was asking you to kill someone, did you?" Even he had been terrified when his mother suggested killing Liam. What normal person would do something like that, let alone a delicate young woman like the one sitting before him? He dismissed it as a joke. But when he looked up, he saw that the once demure Jessica had transformed. Her face was dark, her expression twisted with malice. She spoke through clenched teeth. "I can help you kill Liam." Ethan's eyes went wide. He stared at Jessica, unable to believe those words had come from a woman's mouth. Seeing the shock in his eyes, Jessica's mind was made up. Today, she either made Ethan fall for her or force something to happen between them. The alternative was returning to her country, to that rundown house, to being a social pariah. The first option was impossible. They had just met, and she'd already seen the guards swarming the villa. The odds of a successful seduction were practically zero. In that case, why not use this to negotiate with Ethan? Besides, her current predicament was entirely Liam's fault. She had long since grown to hate him with a passion. "I can help you kill him," Jessica said, suddenly serious. Her gaze locked on Ethan's face. "But I have conditions." Ethan didn't believe for a second she would actually do it. He thought she was just playing along, so he went with it. "All right, let's hear them. What are your conditions?" Jessica stared at him intently and stated her terms. "I want UK citizenship, and after it's done, you have to give me a substantial amount of money." Citizenship was easy for the royal family. Arranging that was a trivial matter. But the money? Ethan frowned. "How much do you want?" Jessica didn't answer directly. She just stared at him and suddenly smiled. "Sir, it's not about how much I want. It's about how much you think Liam's life is worth. That's how much I want." She was gambling. She was betting that Liam's net worth was already in the billions, a number so large she couldn't even imagine it. Otherwise, she wouldn't have so easily stumbled upon his enemy. Her response made Ethan see her in a new light. He had to admit, he hadn't expected to meet a woman this clever. If she was this sharp, maybe a contract with her wasn't such a bad idea. As long as he didn't do it himself. Outsourcing the job was the simplest solution. Even if things went south, it couldn't be traced back to him. Ethan held up a hand, showing 5 fingers. Jessica blinked. 500 million. Then she shook her head. Sir, this is the royal villa. The British royal family. Liam is attending a banquet here. You think his life is only worth 500 million? No. Ethan smiled and shook his head. 5 billion pounds. For a second, Jessica's jaw dropped. She stared at Ethan in disbelief. She had imagined Liam's net worth might reach 5 billion, but 5 billion pounds. How much was that in her currency? Her brain felt like it was short-circuiting. She couldn't even count that high. As a member of the royal family, Ethan knew that the moment Lord Charles had announced his identity tonight, Liam's value had skyrocketed. The price was fair. For a small company, it would be enough to live on for generations. And for him, with his mother backing him, the cost was negligible. Jessica quickly composed herself. She narrowed her eyes and said coldly, Deal. But I want it in writing. Of course, Ethan said with a smile. Even if Jessica was just joking, the contract would be harmless to him if Liam didn't die. He quickly found a pen and paper and wrote out a contract of sale. When he saw Jessica sign her name without a moment's hesitation, Ethan's eyelid twitched. Could she actually be serious? As Jessica carefully folded the contract and put it in her pocket, Ethan asked out of curiosity, So, miss, how do you plan to do it? Isn't it simple? Stage an accident. A car crash. It's the easiest thing in the world. Jessica said, patting the contract happily, unable to contain her grin. Ethan's mouth twitched. If it were that easy, why would I need you? He couldn't help but say, Miss, I must remind you, Liam is currently living at the Stanton estate. That's Thorne family territory. Even we can't get close. And his leg is injured, so his travel plans are uncertain. The Stanton estate. Jessica was taken aback. The name alone sounded expensive, and it was Thorne property. She gritted her teeth. Then give me a car. I'll stake it out. The moment he comes out, I'll make my move. You're planning to crash into him yourself? Ethan raised an eyebrow, suddenly feeling like he was playing some sort of childish game. Jessica shot him a look. Am I that stupid? Can't I just tamper with his car after he gets out? Is she really from a prominent family? The thought flashed through Ethan's mind. He felt compelled to remind her, people from powerful families have drivers. With Liam's status, do you really think he travels without bodyguards? Jessica froze. Then we kidnap his family and threaten him. I remember he has a sister named Chloe Xia, right? Ethan fell silent, looking at her, as if she were an idiot. As soon as the words were out, Jessica realized her mistake. If Liam had bodyguards, why wouldn't his own sister? Suddenly, she felt as if fate was playing a cruel joke on her. How naive had she been to think she could assassinate someone worth over 5 billion pounds? That was a job even professional hitmen would find difficult. Seeing Jessica speechless, Ethan shook his head, feeling a bit foolish for having entertained this ridiculous conversation for so long. He closed the first aid kit, stood up, and tossed out a sarcastic remark as he turned to leave. Forget those useless ideas. You'd have better luck just getting a gun and shooting him in the head. A gun. The word electrified Jessica. She jumped up and grabbed Ethan's arm. Yes, you're right. A gun. I remember you can get guns here. Having grown up sheltered in her home country, Jessica had almost forgotten. This was a foreign land. Guns were everywhere. If she could just get her hands on a weapon, she could take out anyone she wanted. The thought made her giddy. She looked at Ethan eagerly, almost desperate. Sir, help me get a gun. I promise you, I will kill him for you within the agreed-upon time. Staring at Jessica, Ethan's brow furrowed as he tried to figure out if she was serious or just playing an elaborate joke. At first, he thought she was just another girl wronged by Liam. He never expected his offhand suggestion to provoke such an intense reaction. He couldn't shake the feeling that this woman's hatred for Liam was even greater than his own. Regardless, having someone to do the dirty work was far better than doing it himself. Ethan's expression hardened. I can get you a gun, but do you know how to use one? I can learn. Jessica replied instantly. Sir, I can tell you're from a powerful family. Just give me a chance to practice. I can learn how to use it. Her sheer determination left Ethan speechless. He rubbed his chin, considering it for a moment. Fine, I can find someone to teach you how to shoot. But I have one condition. Name it, sir. Ethan's face grew serious. After it's done, no matter what happens, you are not to reveal our arrangement. I am simply the person who helped you fulfill your wish. Jessica knew he was trying to wash his hands of her, but she had no other options. This was her one shot. If she killed Liam, she would be free. Yacht parties, world travel. With that kind of money, she could do whatever she wanted, never having to answer to anyone again. Weren't movies always saying that successful people had to go through darkness first? This was her darkest hour. If she could just get through this, she would succeed. Jessica took a deep breath and nodded solemnly. No problem. A faint smile touched Ethan's lips. Then you'll stay here, starting today. Tomorrow, I'll arrange for someone to handle your weapons training. But I must warn you, this is a royal residence. Do not wander around. Okay, you can count on me. Being able to stay here was a dream come true. Jessica nodded eagerly, afraid he might change his mind. Ethan said no more and left the bedroom. He went straight to his mother's room. Seeing him enter, Natalie put down her phone and looked at her son intently. Ethan, have you come up with a good plan? Ethan recounted his encounter with Jessica. Natalie's eyes widened. What did you say? You told an outsider about this. She doesn't know my identity, and from the looks of it, she hates Liam even more than we do. Mom, I think instead of doing it ourselves, it's better to find someone else. If she succeeds, great. If she fails, it has nothing to do with us, right? Meeting Jessica was a stroke of luck for Ethan. It would be foolish not to use such a willing pawn. Natalie frowned, lost in thought. That's one way to do it. However, Ethan, I must remind you, if that girl succeeds, she cannot be left alive. Natalie's gaze was sharp, her killing intent palpable. Ethan's eyes widened slightly. He had thought this was just a contract, but he never imagined his mother would resort to tying up loose ends so brutally. If she succeeds, you cannot show any mercy. You must have someone silence her, otherwise she will implicate us, Natalie added, her tone grave. Ethan gritted his teeth and nodded. I understand, Mother. Back in the room, Jessica was curiously exploring her new surroundings. Despite Ethan's warning not to leave the room, she couldn't resist taking a look around. It was her first time in a place like this, and the fact that he had casually invited her to stay here made her suspect he was a member of the royal family himself. That thought made her even more reckless. Jessica opened the bedroom door and stepped into the hallway. The end of the corridor overlooked the grounds below. The magnificent estate was laid out before her, including the 2 rows of luxury cars parked far outside the villa. She never imagined getting into the royal circle would be so easy. Looking at the Sun family's car in the distance, Jessica's lips curled into a smirk. In just a short time, she had transformed herself into an honored guest of the royal family. Ding! Her phone vibrated, startling her. She pulled it out and saw it was a call from Spencer's son. The man who had helped her cross the river was no longer her concern. Now, a feeling of superiority had completely consumed her. She answered the call without hesitation, her eyes fixed on the row of black cars outside. Jessica, what's happening? I think I saw a man take you inside. Did you see your old classmate? Spencer's anxious voice came through the line. Jessica just sneered, looking down at them from her high perch without saying a word. Sensing something was wrong, Spencer's father, Mr. Son, quickly spoke up. Jessica, you and Spencer get along well. When we get back, I'll arrange for your wedding. From now on, we'll be one big family. It was a desperate attempt to keep her from burning the bridge. But with a multi-billion-pound contract in her pocket, Jessica couldn't care less about the sons. This had been an all-or-nothing gambit from the start. She had no intention of leaving herself a way back. She held the phone to her ear, her voice loud and clear. Spencer, there's something I've been wanting to tell you for a long time. Spencer's heart sank, but he still tried to sound placating. Jess, what is it? I wanted to say. Jessica suddenly laughed, her eyes full of contempt as she stared out the window. You are absolutely disgusting. Utterly, revoltingly disgusting. Her scornful voice echoed from the phone. Inside the black car, Spencer, who had put the call on speaker, froze. The next second, a torrent of insults poured out of Jessica. Every time I see your fat stomach, I feel sick. How can a person who looks like a pig even exist? And you always had to be on top of me. Every single time, I wanted to throw up last night's dinner. And another thing, you're terrible in bed. Spencer, has anyone ever told you how bad you are? Being with you, I never felt a single ounce of pleasure. I had to take 1,000 showers every time. Spencer, just go get recycled. With that tiny thing you have, you had the nerve to try and put it in my mouth? Ugh, aren't you ashamed of yourself? At that moment, years of pent-up frustration were unleashed. Jessica picked the cruelest words she could think of to scream at him. Though it wasn't so much screaming as it was Jessica finally speaking her truth. Don't contact me ever again. And your dad, the two of you are exactly the same size. What's there to be proud of? A cheap toy from Amazon is better than both of you. Smack. Finally satisfied, Jessica hung up without a second thought. She was an honored guest of the royal family now. What did the Sons have to do with her? She had escaped that swamp. The Sun family was just a stepping stone under her feet. Inside the black car, Spencer stared at the disconnected call on his phone in disbelief. The insults about him were one thing, but what did that last line mean? He instinctively looked at his father, only to see him awkwardly avoiding his gaze. In that fleeting moment of evasion, the puzzle pieces clicked into place. Spencer looked at his father in a rage. Dad, what the hell is going on? Is what Jessica said true? Mr. Sun never imagined Jessica would turn on them the second she got inside the villa. He thought about how well they had treated her all this time. Whatever she wanted, if Spencer wouldn't buy it, he would. But now, she had aired all their dirty laundry. Looking at Spencer's face, twisted with fury, he panicked. Spencer, listen to me, let me explain, it's not like that. Pow! Spencer wasn't listening to any more explanations. He threw a punch, hitting his father square in the face. The driver, seeing this, immediately opened his door and bolted, not wanting to get caught in the crossfire. Do you sleep with every single one of my girlfriends? You animal. Spencer was livid. He threw his phone on the floor and lunged across the front seat. Age had caught up with Mr. Sun, and he was quickly overpowered. His face already swelling, he shouted, Spencer, don't listen to that woman. She's just trying to drive a wedge between us. Dad would never do something like that. What do you mean, never? I saw Nana coming out of your room myself. You said you were just vetting her for me. So you're the reason Nana broke up with me. It was you old bastard. Spencer was practically insane with rage. He grabbed his father's hair and slammed his head against the dashboard. Thump, thump. A few hard impacts left Mr. Sun seeing stars. He continued to beg for mercy. Spencer, calm down. But how could he calm down? Jessica's words were echoing in his head, especially the last part. His eyes were bloodshot, his face contorted. Calm down my ass. I never thought you were this kind of person. From today on, you are no longer my father. With that, Spencer jumped out of the car. Mr. Sun was bruised and beaten. As he sat up, he felt the metallic taste of blood in his nose. He grabbed a tissue to staunch the flow, scrambled out of the car, and yelled, Spencer, let me explain. But Spencer didn't look back. He ran toward the main road and jumped into the first taxi he saw. Watching the scene unfold from the window above, Jessica doubled over with laughter. Now, she finally understood why people fought so hard to climb to the top. Looking down on the struggles of the common folk was so entertaining. It was like a switch had been flipped in her mind. Manipulating people wasn't so hard after all. She wasn't worried about the Sons exposing her. What could people who couldn't even get into the royal villa do? Her goal was now crystal clear. Kill Liam, and she could have everything. She could hardly wait. But those who are overly proud are often the first to stumble. Evelyn Reed, who had been sent to check on Madison Meyer's condition, was grumbling as she came down the stairs. She'd skipped the elevator to slack off for a bit. But in the middle of her phone break, she heard a cell phone ringtone in her native language. Most of the guests at the banquet were British. Evelyn grew curious about which family had arrived. She tiptoed to the third-floor landing. Peeking around the corner, she saw a woman in a mid-range dress standing at the end of the hall, staring outside and talking on the phone. For some reason, the woman looked familiar. Then, the woman burst out laughing, and a jolt went through Evelyn. She would never forget that sound, not even in death. It was the voice of Liam's ex-girlfriend, Jessica Fong, the one her miss had ordered her to investigate. At the time, her miss had tasked her with digging into every detail of Jessica and Liam's relationship, down to their private conversations. She'd had to go to the phone company and listen to 3 days' worth of their call logs. The sound of that voice made her want to vomit. She would never forget it. But Jessica Fong was here, at the royal villa? Did Mr. Liam bring her here? The thought set off alarm bells in Evelyn's head. Thanks to a recent string of movies, her mind immediately leaped to murder plots, insurance fraud, and the classic death on the Nile. Hearing the click of high heels, Evelyn quickly ducked back. She watched as Jessica walked straight into a room off the hallway. To be able to move so freely in the royal villa, Evelyn was certain someone had to be helping her. That combined with Liam's sudden change in fortune. Everything clicked into place. Evelyn's heart pounded in her chest. She bit her lip, her eyes hardening as she made a decision. Then, she turned and left. It was past midnight when they finally left the royal residence. Lord Charles had offered them all rooms, suggesting they stay and relax for a few days. But Cassandra was pregnant, and the appearance of Natalie with Madison Meyer had left Liam on edge. For safety's sake, even though it was already the middle of the night, Liam politely declined the generous offer. It was after 1 a.m. when they returned to the Stanton estate. Cassandra, who had been dozing in the car, went straight to the bedroom and fell asleep. Liam didn't disturb her, carefully tucking her in before he left. Coming out of the bedroom, Liam saw Dr. Aiden waiting in the living room. He gave him a look, and Aiden nodded, stood up, and pushed Liam's wheelchair into the study. Once the door was closed, Liam's voice was low. Dr. Aiden, did you figure it out? Why did Miss Meyer have a sudden heart episode? Based on my tests, Miss Meyer had ingested a hormone-like substance, which caused her heart to pump blood at an accelerated rate. Dr. Aiden reported his findings factually. Liam's expression darkened as he remembered Madison drinking the wine. So, it really was the wine. Something was mixed in. Mr. Lynn, I also examined the glass Miss Meyer drank from. The amount of wine she consumed wouldn't have been enough to cause such severe respiratory distress. Therefore, I can conclude that someone added something to that glass. Something designed to heighten emotions. Dr. Aiden's tone was certain, though Liam hadn't said it outright. Aiden could guess who was behind it. Liam nodded. He finally understood why Natalie hadn't forced the issue when he didn't drink. With a drug like that, only one of them needed to consume it. Lock them in a wine cellar together, and with him unable to run. This useless leg had really messed things up. He frowned. Dr. Aiden, when will my leg be healed? Your recovery is going very well. You can start in-home physical therapy tomorrow, Dr. Aiden replied with a smile. The timing was about right. Liam nodded. Now that the news of his royal lineage was out, it was bound to make a lot of people uneasy. Natalie was certainly one of them, and Ethan even more so. They'd been enemies from the start. His top priority was to get his leg working again, to at least have the ability to fight. In that case, I'll leave the preparations to you, Dr. Aiden. When I wake up tomorrow, please come help me with my rehabilitation. No problem, Aiden agreed, glancing at the time. It's late, so I won't disturb you any further. Rest well. Good. Liam nodded, adding a final instruction. Remember to preserve all the evidence. It might come in handy later. You can count on me. As Aiden left, Liam fell into deep thought. He'd never imagined his life story would be so bizarre, but he couldn't really be blamed for the tangled mess of the previous generation's grudges. In a way, he was just another victim. But now he was committed to Cassandra. She was pregnant with his child. He had to shoulder the responsibilities of a father and a husband. He would never let anything happen to her. Lost in thought, Liam heard a noise at his study door. Since they were back at the Stanton estate, surrounded by Thorne family bodyguards on 24-hour patrol, he didn't think much of it and wheeled himself over to open it. The moment he did, a dark, hollow barrel appeared right in front of his face. Looking past the gun, he saw her. Cassandra's assistant, Evelyn Reed. Evelyn held the gun steady, pressing it to Liam's forehead as she slowly walked into the room, closing and locking the door behind her. Recognizing his assailant, Liam's confusion outweighed his fear. Miss Reed, he said, his face a mask of bewilderment. What are you doing? Evelyn didn't speak. She just stared at him intently. Her other hand, reaching back to check if the door was locked. Seeing her action, Liam remained silent, watching her and trying to figure out her motive. After a long moment of silence, Evelyn finally spoke. Liam, when did you fall in love with my miss? The question was completely out of left field. When did it start? Liam honestly couldn't say for sure. But right now, Evelyn had a gun, and he had to be honest. After a moment's thought, he answered, I don't know exactly when it started. Maybe it was when I heard about everything Cassandra did for me after I died. His mind went back to the things Chloe had told him. At first, he couldn't get over the mental block. But when he heard that Cassandra was ready to marry his statue in front of the whole world, that was the moment he had truly let go of the past. It wasn't because she was pregnant. Evelyn's voice was cold, her brow furrowed. That was part of it, I guess. But what really made me accept her was how she changed. She did so much for me, Liam answered with sincerity. Staring into his eyes, seeing that he didn't seem to be lying, Evelyn bit her lip and fell silent. Seeing her hesitation, a thought sparked in Liam's mind. Miss Reed, don't tell me you came here just to test me. If this was Cassandra's idea, it was completely unnecessary. He was sure she could see everything he was doing clearly enough. There was no need for a test like this. That meant Evelyn had seen something she shouldn't have, and her imagination had run wild. Noticing her silence, Liam was certain he was right. He asked again, Who did you see today? Evelyn's eyes darted away. She started to answer, then caught herself. Don't change the subject. I'm the one asking the questions here. I have the power in this situation. Liam couldn't help but smile wryly. The usually easy-to-fool Evelyn was being surprisingly serious. He raised his hands in a gesture of surrender. Miss Reed, whatever you want to say, just say it. I don't want there to be any more misunderstandings between us. Seeing how forthcoming he was, Evelyn took a deep breath, looked him straight in the eye, and told him what she had seen. Today, at the royal residence, I saw your ex-girlfriend, Jessica Fawn. Liam, I don't know if your feelings for my miss are genuine, but I will not allow what happens in the movies to happen to her. If you hurt her, I swear, even if you're reduced to ashes, I will find a way to scatter you to the winds. The words hit Liam like a ton of bricks. It took him a moment to process it all. Wait, hold on a second. He raised a hand, pressing it against the barrel of the gun as he tried to think. How could Jessica Fong be at the royal residence? He asked, shocked. You didn't bring her? Evelyn's eyes went wide. Liam's mouth twitched. He finally understood what she was getting at. Lady, my leg is injured, not my brain. Why would I give up a perfect wife like Cassandra to go back to her? Are you crazy, or am I? Evelyn was completely stunned. She stared at Liam, trying to read the truth in his eyes. Liam looked at her, exasperated. Seriously, you need to watch fewer movies. The fact that you could even imagine that. I'm impressed. Evelyn was silent for a moment, then slowly lowered the gun. Her cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she awkwardly changed the subject. Then what's the deal with Jessica Fong? You're asking me? I was about to ask you. Liam shot her an exasperated look. I wouldn't have even known about this if you hadn't come here and told me. So you're saying you're not planning to conspire against my miss together? Evelyn slowly holstered the gun, tapping her chin thoughtfully. Knew she was up to no good. Liam rolled his eyes. Are you serious right now? You think I'd throw away a beautiful, wealthy wife for a second helping of that disaster? Evelyn gave a sheepish laugh, awkwardly running a hand through her hair. Well, I was worried. Who knows what you're thinking? My miss is in love with you. She listens to everything you say. She's completely love-struck. As her assistant, I have to be on guard. What if you lost your mind? Hearing this, Liam looked at her as if she were an alien. He finally understood why Cassandra was always threatening to ship her off to Indonesia. If that gun had accidentally gone off just now, he'd be spending the rest of his life trying to explain himself. He let out a short, humorless laugh. So your theory is that I'd abandon my pregnant wife, trick her into having my child, and then use the child to threaten her? Evelyn had the audacity to nod. The thought did cross my mind. Liam. At that moment, words failed him. He genuinely wanted to crack open Evelyn's head and see what was inside. How could one person have such a wild imagination? I never should have saved you. I should have let Cassandra ship you all off to Indonesia. Liam said, his patience worn to a thread. Evelyn's face paled, and her voice dropped to a whisper. She wrung her hands, begging. No, I was wrong. I was just suspicious, so I came to ask. I didn't mean anything by it. It's all for my Mrs. Safety. Big brother Liam, you're the best. Please don't tell her. Before she could finish her plea, the lock on the door suddenly turned. Both of them froze. In a panic, Evelyn ducked behind Liam's wheelchair. The door swung open, revealing Cassandra, her face a mask of cold fury. Planning something behind my back again? Evelyn Reed, you really have a death wish. The moment Cassandra's voice dropped, a shiver ran down Evelyn's spine. She clutched the wheelchair handles, staring at Cassandra in utter shock. Miss, aren't you supposed to be sleeping? What? You thought I wouldn't wake up just because I was asleep? Evelyn Reed, you've got some nerve, threatening my husband right under my nose. Cassandra strode into the room, her eyes flashing with a predatory light, an aura of pure menace radiating from her. Terrified, Evelyn dropped to her knees. She looked desperately at Liam. Big brother Liam, help me. I was wrong. Help me one more time. Liam watched as Cassandra entered the room, sat on the sofa, crossed her legs, and folded her arms, her hawk-like gaze sweeping over them. Remembering how Evelyn had pointed a gun at him without a second thought, he shot her a weary glance. You're on your own. He sighed, maneuvering his wheelchair closer to Cassandra. He stopped beside her. Evelyn remained on her knees, not daring to lift her head. Ignoring her for a moment, Liam looked at Cassandra, his expression softening. Weren't you asleep? Did you have a nightmare? Cassandra's icy demeanor thawed slightly. You weren't there. I couldn't sleep comfortably. 4 days now, they had been sleeping in separate rooms. Even though she was exhausted, the sound of the door closing after Liam had tucked her in had woken her up. She had originally gone to find Dr. Aiden to ask about Liam's leg, wondering when they could sleep together again. Instead, she had found herself outside the study door, overhearing their entire conversation. Remembering Liam's answers, Cassandra's eyes softened further. Evelyn, she said calmly, what exactly is going on? Liam wanted to know too. Both of them looked at Evelyn. Evelyn trembled, knowing she couldn't hide it. She told them everything. It's like this, miss. Today at the Royal Villa, Mr. Lynn asked me to go check on Miss Meyer. But when I got to the third-floor staircase, I saw Jessica Fong in the hallway. She quickly added a clarification. Even though I didn't see her face clearly, I'm positive it was her. You had me investigate her before, miss, so I'm very sensitive to her voice. Liam frowned slightly, watching as Cassandra looked at him questioningly. He explained, I didn't bring her there. I honestly have no idea why she would be at the royal residence. You don't have to explain that to me, Cassandra said with a yawn. I believe you, but what I want to know is who brought her there and what her purpose is. As Liam's ex-girlfriend, all three of them knew that without an invitation, Jessica couldn't have possibly gotten there. This was the UK. Cassandra, especially, knew that after she had gotten Jessica's parents fired, their family was saddled with enormous debt. They couldn't even afford a plane ticket to the UK, let alone pass the financial verification needed for a visa. Someone had to have brought her. There was no way she could have gotten there on her own. I don't know, miss. I just know she was there. There were too many servants coming and going, and I was afraid of being discovered, so I had to leave. I didn't see anyone else with her. Evelyn reported hastily. Liam rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Speaking of which, I can think of one person who is the most likely candidate to have brought her. Cassandra raised an eyebrow. Who? Ethan Vance. Liam was certain. Cassandra, do you remember Madison Meyer, the woman Natalie mentioned at the banquet? Cassandra didn't speak, just watched him. When she took me to the private villa, I thought it was strange. I just asked Dr. Aiden, and it turns out Madison's heart episode was because Natalie had drugged her wine. I didn't drink it, though. Evelyn quickly chimed in. Yes, Mr. Lynn is telling the truth. When Dr. Aiden and I went to the cellar, Mr. Lynn was performing CPR on Miss Meyer. As she spoke, Evelyn glanced nervously at Liam. Cassandra's eyes narrowed, her voice dropping as she repeated the words. CPR. Mr. Lynn didn't actually touch her. He used a towel as a barrier. Evelyn belatedly added. Seeing the anger on Cassandra's face recede slightly, she breathed a sigh of relief. In that case, it was almost certainly Ethan, Cassandra concluded, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. It's highly possible. Now that Lord Charles has announced my identity, as a royal heir, Natalie and Ethan are naturally resentful. And I have a history with Ethan. Liam connected the dots, then looked at Cassandra and let out a laugh. But I really didn't expect them to go all the way to our home country to find Jessica Fong, just to get back at me. The three of them quickly pieced the situation together. Ethan and Natalie were royals, making them difficult to touch. Jessica, on the other hand, was nothing, just trash not even worthy of Cassandra's attention. Cassandra felt her eyelids growing heavy. She yawned again, tears welling in her eyes. So, how do you plan to handle it? She asked, her voice thick with sleep. There's no need to handle it. They're digging their own graves, Liam said with a smile. But Mr. Lynn, the miss is pregnant now. What if that Jessica Fong decides to go for a scorched earth approach? Evelyn said frantically. She couldn't let anything jeopardize her miss's safety. This wasn't just one life on the line anymore. It was two. Liam's expression hardened. He gestured for Evelyn to calm down. We still need to be cautious. I don't think we can trust anyone on the royal side. Anna might be on our side, but Natalie is her sister. In the end, she'll always protect her own family. So, Evelyn, you and Dr. Aiden might have a busy time ahead of you. Evelyn blinked. Madison isn't well yet, right? Dr. Aiden is running back and forth, which is exhausting. So, Evelyn, you can run a few of those errands for him. Liam's meaning was clear. At a time like this, you couldn't trust anyone but your own people. Cassandra was a given, and Evelyn, who was always by her side, was one of them too. As for Dr. Aiden, just have Evelyn tag along. Evelyn understood. Seeing that her miss was no longer angry with her, she was overcome with gratitude. Yes, Mr. Lynn, I know what to do. She quickly took her leave. Cassandra tilted her head, letting it rest on Liam's shoulder. She rubbed her sleepy eyes, repeating his words in a drowsy murmur. So, she'll always side with her own sister. Liam thought she was just analyzing his words and answered instinctively. Of course. I've only just been brought back into the fold. I don't have any sort of relationship with them, let alone familial bonds. If she had to choose, of course she'd choose the sister she's known her whole life. Oh, so she'd side with her sister. Cassandra mumbled again. Liam was about to agree when he looked up and saw Cassandra's scrutinizing gaze. He instantly caught on. Well, that's from Anna's perspective. If it were me, of course I'd side with my darling, precious wife first. Cassandra's eyebrow twitched. Really? Liam immediately raised a hand in a solemn vow. Of course. It's more real than real gold. Oomph. Cassandra snorted, then hooked her arm around his shoulder, nestling her face against him like a trusting bird. Normally, Liam would have just scooped her up and carried her bed. But sitting in his wheelchair, how was he supposed to do that? Seeing her eyes close completely, Liam grew anxious. Cassandra? Cassandra? Don't fall asleep yet. Get into bed first. If you sleep like this, what am I supposed to do? The only answer was a long, drawn-out silence. He didn't know if she was doing it on purpose or not, but Liam was now forced to sit bolt upright to support her. After nearly 5 minutes, he sighed and looked at the sofa beside them. Sleeping on the sofa tonight is fine, I guess. But you have to get up for a second so I can pull it out. The Thorne family only bought the best furniture, and the best was often the most practical. The sofa in the bedroom was large enough to sleep one person comfortably. Carrying Cassandra to the bedroom was a difficult task, but taking off her shoes and helping her lie down on the sofa right here was manageable. Liam shook her gently. Cassandra's eyelids fluttered, and she sat up with a displeased look. Who wants to sleep on the sofa? I want to go back to the room to sleep. Well, I thought you were asleep, Liam said with a laugh. The next second, Cassandra's voice returned, her fingers hooking onto the collar of his shirt. Come back to the room and sleep with me. She pulled him forward without waiting for an answer. Liam's collar was stretched taut, and he had no choice but to put his hands on the wheels of his chair. Wait, Cassandra, my leg. I don't care if it's healed or not. I'm sleeping with you tonight. I haven't slept with you in so long. Even on the cruise ship, she'd had to worry about his injured leg. They'd been in the same room, but in separate beds. She had been holding back for ages. Considering Dr. Aiden had just said he could start physical therapy tomorrow, she figured it must not be a big deal. Plus, she was so tired she could barely walk straight. Liam sighed, finally conceding. Back in the master bedroom, Liam managed to climb onto the bed with some difficulty. When he turned around, he saw Cassandra, her eyes half closed, staring at him thoughtfully. A jolt of alarm went through him. He quickly pulled the covers up to his chest. Don't you try anything. We can't do anything right now. Don't you dare. He shuffled his body toward the edge of the bed, only to see Cassandra perch on the other side, calmly taking off her shoes and getting under the covers. Seeing her settle down with seemingly no intention of making a move, Liam finally breathed a sigh of relief. He reached over her to turn off the light. The second the light went out, his arm was grabbed. She pulled him close, holding him tightly in her arms. Alarm bells screamed in Liam's head. He didn't dare move. He warned her again, don't do anything reckless, it's not the right time. Hiss. Before he could finish, Cassandra bit his arm. Then, her soft voice floated through the darkness. So noisy? Shut up. That's what you call arguing? I was just worried about our health. Liam's mouth twitched, and he helplessly stroked Cassandra's head. But you can't just bite me. What if you actually broke the skin? Cassandra was having none of it. She turned her head away, her voice full of haughty pride. If I can break you just by biting, then you're weaker than I thought. Liam was caught between laughter and tears. He patted her arm gently, his voice softening. All right, I'm not going to fight with you. Go to sleep. Cassandra didn't answer. The sound of her light, even breathing, filled the silence. And, just as Liam thought she was asleep, she spoke again. Is it enough just to send Evelyn and the others? Since this was Ethan's idea, I doubt Evelyn's team can get anywhere near them. Then we'll just have to roll with the punches, Liam replied. He had no idea what kind of plan they would cook up together. Cassandra frowned, her voice turning cold. How much do you know about Jessica Fong? The question landed like a punch to the gut, and a cold sweat broke out on Liam's back. Should he say he knew her well, or not at all? His current girlfriend asking about his ex, no matter how he answered, felt like a trap. The lights were off, but he could feel Cassandra's eyes boring into him, making his heart race. I wouldn't say I know her well, Liam answered honestly. It's been too long. The details are all a blur. Cassandra sounded as if she'd heard the most interesting thing in the world. She grabbed his arm tightly. Really? Of course it's true. Well, have I ever lied to you? You lied to me all the time. If I hadn't woken up just now, you and Evelyn were planning to hide this whole thing from me, weren't you? No way. I didn't even know what Evelyn was up to. I hadn't even gotten into bed before she burst in, pointing a gun at me. Scared the hell out of me. I was afraid it would go off by accident. At a time like this, self-preservation was key. Liam had no intention of saving Evelyn from Cassandra's wrath, so he spilled everything about the chaotic scene from earlier. But Cassandra's focus was elsewhere. She fell silent for a moment, thinking, then said abruptly, the gun. She paused. Speaking of which, if Jessica Fong had a gun, what do you think she'd do? What would she do? If she had a gun, she'd try to put a bullet right in my... Liam answered instinctively, but the words died in his throat as the realization hit him. He shot upright in bed, alarm bells screaming in his mind. Feeling his sudden movement, Cassandra narrowed her eyes. Exactly. What if she has a gun? With someone like Ethan Vance involved, and us being in the UK, a gun probably isn't that hard for them to get their hands on illegally. Liam was now on high alert. If Cassandra hadn't mentioned it, He would have completely overlooked that possibility. Given their history, if Jessica got her hands on a weapon, he would be her first and only target. In the past, Liam wouldn't have cared. His life was a wreck anyway. Bring it on. Who was afraid of whom? But things were different now. He had Cassandra. He had Chloe, Leo, and Carol. He had the Thorne family, and Evelyn and the others. He was no longer just responsible for himself. He had too many people to carry on his shoulders. He turned to Cassandra in the darkness. Cassandra, what do you think the chances are she gets a gun? 50% or higher, she answered without hesitation. Even a 1% chance was too much for Liam to bear. He lowered his gaze and released his arm from around her. This requires serious consideration. I have evidence that Natalie tried to frame me, but even if I present it to Lord Charles, she'll just get a slap on the wrist. It's not enough. I agree. It's best to let all the pieces fall into place and then present the entire puzzle to him at once. On this, Cassandra and Liam were in perfect agreement. It was how she ran her company. Minor mistakes from her subordinates never reached her desk. Only the major disasters did. Cassandra raised an eyebrow. In that case, if Jessica really does use a gun, it might actually be a good thing for us. It would be a very good thing, Liam nodded. It was intoxicating to have a wife who was not only brilliant, but could also pick up on a train of thought and run with it. But we're cooped up in this estate all day. She doesn't have an opportunity to make a move. Liam stroked his chin, a plan already forming in his mind. Then let's give her one, Cassandra said with a sly grin. I'll have my father pull the Thorne security detail. But this is still dangerous. Wherever you go, I'm going with you. Liam didn't want her taking that risk, but if the plan was airtight, it should be fine. Besides, Jessica couldn't become a master sniper overnight. If they presented her with a golden opportunity this quickly, how could she possibly pass it up? Then we go together. But we don't say a word about this to anyone beforehand, Liam said, his eyes hardening. Cassandra nodded. I know. She pulled his arm close again, rubbing her forehead against it as sleepiness washed over her once more. I'm going to sleep. We'll talk tomorrow. Okay, get some rest. We can play these games anytime, Liam murmured. He leaned down and pressed a kiss to her forehead. Good night. Good night. The next day, it was nearly noon when the sun finally streamed into the room, waking them both. For once, a good night's sleep. Liam opened his eyes, still groggy, to find Cassandra staring at him with a hazy look. Morning, he said with a smile. Cassandra yawned, hugged his arm for another long moment, then simply rolled over and went back to sleep. Liam's mouth twitched. He knew how exhausted she'd been lately, so he didn't disturb her. Once she was breathing deeply again, he carefully extracted his arm, slowly moved his body to the edge of the bed, and settled back into his wheelchair. After washing up, he wheeled himself out of the bedroom. Dr. Aiden was already waiting in the living room. Mr. Lynn, please have your breakfast. Afterward, I'll walk you through the details of your rehabilitation program, Dr. Aiden said with a welcoming smile, moving to Liam's side. Sounds good, Liam nodded, letting Aiden push him to the dining room. Chloe and Leo were already there, eating lunch. Seeing Liam, Leo, still covered in bruises from his training, grinned mischievously. Well, Liam, looks like it's finally your turn to suffer. You little punk, Liam laughed, then looked up to see Carol Xia, dressed and ready, coming down the stairs. Chloe, didn't we say we were going out after we ate? Why are you still here? Carol asked, looking surprised as she entered the dining room. I just started, Mom. Sit down and wait for me for a little bit, Chloe whined, putting on a cute, pleading face. Liam paused. You're going out? Yes, Chloe and I decided to go shopping this afternoon. We thought we'd pick up some baby supplies to get ready, Carol replied with a smile. Liam's eyebrows rose. Seeing that no one else was around, he leaned in and asked quietly, You haven't told anyone about Cassandra's pregnancy, have you? Of course not, Carol said immediately. You two told us not to say anything yet. Don't worry, my lips are sealed. We're just going out to buy some yarn and things. I want to knit a little hat for the baby and Cassandra. I see. Liam nodded. The conversation he'd had with Cassandra late last night flashed through his mind, and an idea sparked. How about this? After we eat, Cassandra and I will go with you. Chloe blinked. You and Cassandra are coming with us? That's right, Liam said with a grin. We're bored sitting at home anyway. Why don't we all go out for a bit? He looked over at Leo. Leo, you've been training for days. Why not take a day off and come with us? At the mention of his name, Leo sat up straight, nodding frantically. Yes, absolutely. It feels like forever since I've been out. I'm about to go stir crazy in here. Liam's sudden decision to join them made Chloe frown. She studied him intently. Brother Liam, are you worried something might happen to us? Having spent so much time with him, Chloe was getting good at reading his mind. Liam didn't answer, just kept his head down and ate. Seeing this, Chloe quickly added, "You and Cassandra don't have to come. After what happened last time, Mom and I promised we wouldn't leave the bodyguard site for a second." She thought he was just worried about them going out alone. But Liam, having already plotted with Cassandra, had made his decision. "No, it's not that. I'm just bored," he said, laughing it off. Though suspicious, Chloe didn't press the issue. During the meal, Cassandra woke up and joined them. After they all finished eating, the group, protected by the Thorne family security team, headed to Chinatown. Although Chinatown was home to many wealthy residents, the sight of an entire motorcade pulling up at the entrance to a shopping district still turned heads. Many people in the UK's Chinese community had heard of Liam's story, but since Chloe and Carol had never appeared in public, few recognized them. Cassandra and Liam had already agreed on their plan, so this time, they didn't bother with hats or masks. The moment they stepped out of the car, they were instantly noticed. "Factory guy? Are you the factory guy from the internet?" a shopkeeper asked with a friendly grin, approaching them as they entered a store, her eyes full of curiosity. In the past, Cassandra would have either bought out the entire store or had the whole street shut down, leaving only a few professional staff to serve them. But today, for the sake of their plan, she did no such thing. This allowed a crowd to get a close-up look at Liam and Cassandra. They were a stunning couple, a perfect match. People immediately took out their phones, snapping pictures and posting them online. Rarely exposed to such a large crowd, Cassandra was visibly flustered. Though she kept a cold expression, she could feel the intense energy of the people around her. She turned to Carol. "Auntie, please pick out whatever you like." It was clear that Carol and Chloe were also startled by the throng of people. They exchanged a look and nodded quickly. Fortunately, Carol had experience with high society from her younger days, and she browsed the merchandise with an air of refined grace. "This one is beautiful. Was it shipped from China?" Carol stopped at a special section for Chinese embroidery, pointing at a piece depicting a vividly stitched bird. "Madam has excellent taste," the shop owner replied respectfully, knowing his customers were VIPs. "That's a piece of China's cultural heritage, Sioux-style embroidery. I went through a lot of trouble to import it. Mom, it looks like you don't even have to stitch anything yourself." "Everything here looks so beautiful," said Chloe, looking around with wide-eyed wonder. It was her first time in a place like this. A shop in Chinatown that proudly advertised authentic Sioux embroidery, catering to the wealthy, was unlikely to be fake. If they sold counterfeits, their reputation would be ruined instantly. Carol knew a little about the art form and could tell these were masterworks. However, the price tag was staggering. The one she was pointing at, titled Autumn River, was priced at £80,000. Whoa! Seeing the price, Chloe sucked in a sharp breath. She instinctively tugged on Carol's arm and whispered, "Mom, that's so expensive. $80,000 for a piece of cloth." Sioux embroidery is usually in this price range. It would be a bit cheaper back home. The shop owner, who had overheard her, explained with a smile. "We'll take it. Wrap it up for us," Cassandra said without a second thought. Right away, knowing he was dealing with big spenders, the owner beamed and carefully took the piece down to be packaged. This was how the rich shopped. No haggling, just pointing at what they liked. In a short time, Cassandra had selected several pieces, the bill already climbing past £500,000, yet she didn't even blink. Liam watched the spree, his eyelids twitching. He suddenly felt that the $30 million he'd extorted from the Landon family was a laughably small sum. Money, no matter what tax bracket you were in, never seemed to last. Watching Cassandra shop, Carol and Chloe were also on edge. In the span of a few minutes and a few casual conversations, their total had surpassed £1 million. When they saw Cassandra's eyes land on a white jade fan worth $300,000 and a pair of blue and white porcelain bowls priced at $200,000, they both silently wiped the sweat from their foreheads. Shopping was a woman's natural instinct. Though Cassandra was a little uncomfortable with the crowd at first, after a few purchases, she was fully immersed. Watching Cassandra's enthusiastic spree, Leo swallowed hard. "Liam, Cassandra is a little intense, huh?" Liam sighed with a wry smile. "What can you do? Let her buy it." "Brother Liam, did you bring any money? Cassandra isn't going to be the one paying, is she?" Chloe whispered, sidling up to him as she eyed the massive crowd outside. With this many people watching, if Cassandra was the one to pull out her card, her brother's reputation as a kept man would be sealed for good. Liam paused for a moment, then chuckled awkwardly. "I've got a little left on my card. It should be enough." "Oh, good, good." Chloe breathed a sigh of relief. At the same time, Leo's eyes fixed on a pair of jade bracelets. He glanced down at Chloe's bare wrist, then mustered the courage to lean close to Liam. "Liam, can you spot me some cash? I didn't bring my card," he whispered, so only they could hear. Following Leo's gaze, Liam saw the emerald green jade bracelets in a nearby display case and instantly understood. "You little devil," he grinned, waving a dismissive hand. "Go get them. I'll cover it at the end." Leo's eyes lit up. "Thanks, Liam," he said gratefully. Infected by Cassandra's shopping fever, Chloe and Carol couldn't resist and soon joined the fray. The three women stood together, chattering excitedly about the various goods. When Cassandra learned that Liam had offered to pay, her eyebrows shot up and her shopping enthusiasm intensified. In just 10 minutes, the few remaining authentic masterpieces in the store had all been claimed. Everyone was happy and smiling. The only one hurting was Liam's bank account. £2 million gone just like that. Liam sighed to himself. He needed to talk to Caleb Thorne about finding a job, and soon. Otherwise, his 9-figure nest egg wouldn't stand a chance against Cassandra's spending habits. As the crowd grew, videos of their shopping trip flooded the internet, and a few enterprising individuals even started live streaming the event. The clips quickly went viral back in the States. Liam was a hot topic, and the videos shot straight to the top of the trending lists. Within moments, a flood of comments poured in. "Factory guy, you finally betrayed the working class. Dude, did you see how much they just dropped? 1.8 million. Damn, I wouldn't even spend $100 that casually. How are they so calm? What's there to be calm about? Zenith Corp isn't a joke. They're a monopoly. How can you compete with that? My God, I make $3,000 a month. Even if I didn't spend a penny, it would take me since the 1500s to save up 1.8 million. Their concept of money is different from ours. Nothing to see here. Liam, you still hiring at the factory? I'd like to be your friend." As the news fermented online, Jessica Fong, still living at the royal residence, scrolled across the story on her phone. 18 million. Jessica couldn't even count that high on her fingers. But there on the screen were Liam and Cassandra, their affectionate interactions making her eyes burn with jealousy. "If you complete the contract, you can have a life like that too. What I can give you is much more than this," a voice said from the doorway. Ethan Vance had just entered and saw the video playing on her phone. He glanced at it, his eyes flashing. For him, such an expense was routine. Jessica quickly put her phone down, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "Sir, when do we start the training? I can't wait." She was desperate. Though her basic needs were met, she was forbidden from leaving the residence. She was anxious to complete the contract so she could live as freely as Liam, without a care in the world for money. "Training can wait," Ethan replied, his gaze thoughtful as he studied her. He said suddenly, "Don't you think now is the perfect opportunity?" Jessica froze. "What do you mean?" "They're shopping in Chinatown this afternoon, and I heard they booked a Chinese restaurant for dinner. With so many people gathered there, even if someone made a move, it would be almost impossible to trace, wouldn't it?" Ethan reasoned methodically. The moment he'd heard Liam and Cassandra were brazenly going on a shopping spree, he couldn't contain himself. The sooner Liam was dead, the better it was for them. They had to act before his father, Lord Charles, made a final decision about handing the royal legacy over to Liam. Although she had agreed readily, the thought of actually pulling a trigger made Jessica's courage falter. Her training was supposed to last at least a month or two, right? A week at the very least? She never imagined that the day after she signed a contract, Ethan would be sending her out to kill someone. Jessica hesitated. "But sir, I don't know how to use a gun. Besides, if I go now and I miss, won't I be exposed immediately?" "How would you be exposed?" Ethan narrowed his eyes, recalling the late-night conversation with his mother, Natalie. They had no intention of truly entrusting the shot to Jessica. "I've already checked. Liam and Cassandra will be dining at the Chinese restaurant tonight. I found the perfect sniper position for you, and I will provide the rifle. All you have to do is go there and pull the trigger," Ethan said with a smile. "It's that simple." Jessica's heart skipped a beat. She looked at him, unconvinced. "Did you think it would be difficult? I've planned out the location for you," Ethan replied smoothly, then turned his gaze back to her. "Or, are you scared?" Jessica's greatest fear was earning Ethan's distrust. His taunt was all it took. She couldn't back down now. How could I be scared? He had chosen the location for her, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Who knew when she would get another chance to find Liam and Cassandra together like this? If she passed this up, she knew she would regret it for the rest of her life. Jessica nodded firmly and stood up. "Okay, I'll leave now. But sir, before I go, could you explain to me exactly how to use the sniper rifle?" "No problem. I've already arranged for someone," Ethan said with a smile, then clapped his hands. The bedroom door opened, and a man dressed entirely in black entered. Ethan cleared his throat and gave a cold command. "Take this young lady to the armory." "Yes, sir." After Jessica and the man in black had left, Natalie entered from outside, her eyes fixed on Ethan. "Is it all set?" "Yes. I've told her everything. Mother, don't worry. We've seen her file. Her hatred for Liam is probably no less than ours. Ethan replied with a confident smile. Natalie's gaze hardened as she changed the subject. Are the arrangements at the restaurant in place? Ethan nodded, even patting his chest in assurance. Everything is taken care of. Mother, when I handle things, you can rest easy. It's precisely because you're handling it that I can't rest easy, Natalie retorted, her face devoid of any warmth. She stared at her son, her voice sharp. If we're doing this, it must succeed. I don't want to see Liam alive ever again. He won't be. I sent one of my own men as backup. Even if Jessica fails, he won't. After it's done, we'll pin all the blame on her. That was your plan from last night, wasn't it? Ethan repeated their scheme with a grin. Their plan was simple. A second sniper was positioned near Jessica's location, just in case her aim was off. It was Natalie who had reminded him of this necessity. After all, even if they used Jessica as a scapegoat, an incident like this would put Liam and Cassandra on high alert. Future opportunities will be scarce. It was best to end this as quickly as possible. Natalie gave her son a long, deep look, then said no more. She glanced at the time. It's about time. We should notify the media outlets. Right? Are you sure this will really draw them out? Cassandra asked, back in the car. Her eyes narrowed as she studied Liam. It should. We made such a big show of coming out here. They definitely know. I don't think they'll pass up an opportunity this good, Liam replied, glancing at the swarming crowds outside the window. They had accidentally let slip their dinner reservation at the restaurant during their shopping trip. If their opponents ignored a setup this perfect, they were more pathetic than he thought. Seeing the doubt still lingering in Cassandra's eyes, Liam added with a smile, even if it's not today, we'll do it again tomorrow and the day after. We'll go on a public shopping spree for days on end. I refuse to believe they can resist. If they wouldn't take the bait he was dangling, then there was nothing more he could do. Cassandra raised her eyelids slightly and nodded. All right, we'll do it your way. Haley, let's go. In the driver's seat, Haley Lou, though she couldn't understand what her boss and Liam were plotting, could guess they were up to something. She didn't hesitate and started the car. The entire motorcade moved smoothly through the streets of Chinatown. A few minutes later, Haley pulled up in front of a Chinese restaurant. They had called ahead, and the owner was already waiting to greet them. He and his staff welcomed them in with beaming smiles. Brother Liam, aren't we eating in the same room? Why did you book two? Chloe asked, confused, as the owner explained the reservations. What's the fun in all being together? Chloe, come here, Liam said with a grin, beckoning her over. Chloe walked over, suspicious. When Liam gestured for her to lean in, she bent down and put her ear close to his. I saw Leo buy something earlier. I think it's a gift for you, Liam whispered. Your mom will be there too. It's a perfect chance for the three of you to chat, right? Forget everything else. The moment she heard Leo had bought her a gift, Chloe instinctively glanced over at him. Seeing him looking around with a clueless expression, she blushed. Well, we still don't have to eat in separate rooms. If you and Cassandra were there, you could help me out. Chloe's face was beet red. She clearly had no idea how to handle the situation. Liam chuckled. But if we're there, your mom's attention will be all on us, won't it? Excuses were easy to find. His words hit home, and Chloe instantly understood. It was true. Whenever Liam was around, her mother's focus shifted completely away from her. Chloe didn't mind. Her brother had been lost for years, so of course her mother doted on him, especially now that his wife was pregnant. But it meant that she and Leo never got her mother's full attention. If this kept up, who knew when they would ever get her blessing to be together? Realizing this was her brother's way of creating an opportunity for them, she brightened. Okay, Brother Liam, I'll go get Mom. The three of us will have dinner, and you and Cassandra can have a romantic date. She agreed excitedly and scurried over to Carol's side. When she heard Liam and Cassandra wanted some time alone, Carol happily agreed without a second thought. Who would want to be a third wheel when two people were so clearly in love? So, Carol's group went to a private room on the first floor, while Liam and Cassandra were led by a waiter to a room on the third. We were in a rush, so Evelyn only had time to dress up two dummies. But if their sniper position is where we think it is, their backs will be to them. They shouldn't be able to tell the difference, Cassandra said, pointing to the figures they had already placed inside as they opened the door. It'll do. They won't have a perfect line of sight anyway. They'll have to aim for the head, and with their backs turned, they won't see the details, Liam said, nodding at the setup on the sofa facing away from the window. Okay. Cassandra nodded gently and pushed Liam's wheelchair down the hall to another private room. Now, all they had to do was wait for Jessica Fong to appear. As evening approached, Jessica, having received a crash course in using a sniper rifle, arrived at the building across from the restaurant, just as Ethan had instructed. He hadn't lied. The path up was clear. The attic door was rusted and weathered, a clear sign it hadn't been opened in a long time. Jessica pulled the key from her pocket and opened the door. It was exactly as she had imagined, like a sniper's nest from a movie. The entire attic was dilapidated, with only a small window offering a view of the restaurant across the street. Once the window was open, the line of sight was perfect. Jessica's heart soared. It was true. The people you associate with determine the places you go. She took a deep breath and opened the case she was carrying. The sniper rifle inside sent a thrill through her. In her 20-some years of life, it was the first time she had ever touched something like this. At that moment, she was immensely grateful she hadn't given up, that she had fought so desperately. Once she cleared this hurdle, her life would be like the people dining below, free and never again worried about money. Jessica took another deep breath, her hands irresistibly drawn to the gun. The cold, solid touch sent a shiver down her spine. Soon, just one shot, and she could walk out of this grimy place for good. You were right. They didn't pass up the opportunity. Hanging up the phone, Cassandra looked at Liam, a hint of surprise in her eyes. Liam's heart tightened. What's the situation? Palmer said Jessica did arrive by car, carrying a black case. She's in the attic across the street. Cassandra relayed briefly, then added coolly, but she didn't come alone. Liam's eyebrow shot up. He instantly guessed their intentions. It seems they don't trust Jessica either. Looks like they're planning a little double cross. Cassandra didn't speak, just walked silently to the window and drew the curtains. Watching her, Liam chuckled. I knew she couldn't pull something this big off by herself. What a shame. That's a fine piece of equipment she's about to waste. As he spoke, he saw Cassandra slowly approach, standing before him with a fire burning in her eyes, scrutinizing him. Liam froze. What's wrong? You seem to know her quite well, Cassandra said, her voice laced with a sour, jealous edge. Of course I know her, Liam replied instinctively. She spends all day dreaming up grand schemes, but when things actually happen, she has no idea how to clean up the mess. During his years with the Hamiltons, besides cleaning up their messes, Jessica had given him plenty of headaches. He'd had to take her to countless parties and then apologize for her ridiculous comments by treating his friends to dinner. He'd spent his time solving one problem after another for her, all within his limited power. Liam remembered what a friend had told him after a party once. He'd said, Liam, you're a great guy in every way, except you're a terrible judge of character. Back then, he hadn't understood. He had 3 sisters and a girlfriend he'd been with since college. He thought his life was set. He never imagined it was all built on a foundation of lies. They were all just using him. In all those years, he had never once thought of himself. But he had woken up now, and it wasn't too late. His life was just beginning. Liam's trip down memory lane was cut short by a sharp tug. He looked up to see Cassandra's eyes blazing with anger. She had grabbed his collar with one hand, forcing him to meet her gaze. You dare admit it. It seems you really haven't forgotten her. It was no longer just a hint of jealousy. Cassandra's rage was written all over her face. It felt as if he dared to say yes. She would skin him alive and devour him. But Liam had always been direct. Even in a moment like this, he didn't want to lie. Knowing her doesn't mean I haven't forgotten her, he said with utter sincerity. Cassandra, if you spend years with someone and still can't figure out their personality, wouldn't that make you pretty useless? Cassandra hated lies, but when Liam told the truth, she found that while she was still angry, she couldn't refute his logic. She had to admit she agreed with his theory. She stared at him intently for several seconds before finally releasing her grip. After this is over, I never want to hear the name Jessica Fong from your mouth again, she said, her voice dropping to an icy, final threat. Liam chuckled. When have you ever heard me mention her before? Besides, if Lord Charles hadn't insisted on announcing my identity to the world, I wouldn't have attracted all this trouble. I find it disgusting, too. Oomph. Cassandra snorted and pulled a chair over to sit down. Seeing her pouty yet adorable expression, Liam couldn't help but laugh. He wheeled himself over to her side. All right, the net has been cast. Let's just sit back and watch them dig their own graves. As he spoke, he placed his hand on her abdomen, his voice instantly softening. It's almost 4 months, right? Feeling the warmth of his hand, Cassandra blushed and nodded. I think so. Liam's gaze softened, tinged with apology. I'm sorry. I haven't been strong enough. You're 4 months pregnant, and I'm still making you run around with me like this. He had felt uneasy about it for a while. His wife was pregnant, yet she had to accompany him in this charade, dealing with people who wanted him dead. He hadn't been considered enough. Hearing his words, Cassandra bit her lip. She glanced at him, hearing his apology again. Although her first instinct was to say she was doing it willingly, seeing the look in his eyes gave her a strange feeling. You can't say that. I've done a lot of things wrong in the past, too. Cassandra's tone softened, her expression melting. Doing this is nothing. As long as I'm with you, just don't hide things from me. God knew how terrified she had been in the past when Liam, under the guise of protecting her, had kept secrets, only for accidents to happen repeatedly. She was always afraid that she would never see him again, always feeling that their time together was too short, always feeling lost because of his lack of trust. At this moment, she was almost grateful to Jessica for orchestrating this. If not for this incident, she would never have known just how deeply Liam already trusted her. The atmosphere hung in the air for a moment. Their eyes met, and as if by mutual understanding, they both smiled. Liam spoke slowly. Let's not talk about the past. You used to torture me, and now you're running around pregnant with me. I guess I've got my revenge. We're even. Oomph. Cassandra lifted her chin haughtily, her cheeks flushing a deep crimson that spread to her ears. His words echoed in her mind. We're even. The time was 6 o'clock in the evening. It was sunset, the brightest moment of the day before dusk. Jessica checked her phone. She knew that soon the sun would dip below the horizon, and the light would only get worse. She bit her lip, her heart sinking. Closing her eyes, she took a deep breath, then snapped them open, a look of grim determination on her face as she raised the sniper rifle. Jessica, who had been pampered at home her whole life, nearly lost her balance, just lifting the weapon. There hadn't been enough time. She had no professional training. Just holding the gun was this difficult. She had no idea if she could handle the recoil when she fired. But wealth and glory were right in front of her. Images of her parents' cold stares and her brother's ridicule flashed through her mind. She clenched her jaw. If she could pull this off, she would get everything she wanted. Then, her family would look at her with completely different eyes. Success or failure hinged on this one moment. Jessica took another deep breath and rested the rifle on the windowsill. Following the instructions she had been given, she chambered around. She was secretly grateful that the man Ethan had sent knew she wouldn't learn to assemble the weapon in time. He had put it together for her and placed it in the case. All she had to do was load it. She leaned forward, pressing her eye to the scope. The image of the restaurant across the street instantly filled her view. Ethan had chosen the perfect spot. She didn't even have to search for the room. The moment she looked through the scope, she saw two heads moving in front of the third-floor window. They were facing away from her, but their hair was identical to what she had seen in the videos of Liam and Cassandra. As the figures moved, Jessica's eyes darkened. Still have the appetite for dinner, Liam? You're about to die, she sneered, aiming for Liam's head. She moved her finger to the trigger, her eyes darting to the time on her phone. Ethan had told her to fire at exactly 6:10 p.m. The wind speed and light at that time were perfect for an evening shot. 6:09. She counted down the seconds in her head. When she reached 59, she gritted her teeth and, without hesitation, pulled the trigger. Bang! A deafening roar echoed through the attic. The recoil sent Jessica stumbling backward, landing hard on the floor. Her ears rang, and she sat there in a daze, a look of pure shock on her face. She made her move. The moment the gunshot rang out, Liam's eyes hardened. He turned quickly to Cassandra. Cassandra, your people can go in now. Okay, Cassandra replied, her fingers flying across her phone to give the order. At the same time, she said, there were 2 shots. 2, yes. One had a silencer. You could even hear that? Cassandra, you're a genius, Liam said, genuinely amazed, his face filled with admiration. Of course. My father was in the special forces, you know. Cassandra shot him a glance. Her finger hovered over the send button on her phone, but when she saw the worship in Liam's eyes, she lifted her chin with pride. Wow, but that's still amazing. I didn't even hear a second shot. How could you hear that? You're incredible. Liam's eyes were full of adoration, and he didn't stop praising her. Cassandra, how are you so amazing? Cassandra's chin was practically in the air. Liam's praise made her feel like she was floating. She crossed her arms. I have even more impressive skills. When I get the chance, I'll show you. More impressive? Liam's eyes lit up. He wrapped an arm around her waist, leaned in, and nuzzled his head against her. My wife is so amazing. As Liam's head moved against her, a ticklish feeling spread through Cassandra. She cupped his head in her hands, her face full of pride. Of course, there's still a lot you don't know. I'll give you a personal demonstration later. Kisses for my wife. I'll allow you 1 kiss. Hey, what are you doing? Let go of me. I said only 1. 1 isn't enough. My wife is this amazing. I have to kiss her every day. You silver-tongued devil. Why are you so shameless? We haven't even solved the problem yet. So what? Our room is a whole hallway away from that one. Even if that room explodes. Liam was still bantering when, in the next second, a deafening boom rocked the entire building. The massive golden chandelier hanging from the ceiling plummeted to the ground, shattering into a million pieces. Holy crap, are they insane? They actually used explosives? Liam's eyes widened in disbelief as he stared at the pulverized glass on the floor. Cassandra hadn't expected this move either. She instinctively threw her arms around Liam, her heart pounding with residual fear. We have to get down there now. They might have planted bombs all over this building. These people are desperate. They're trying to kill you. No. Liam grabbed her arm. If we go down there now and they see we're still alive, then they'll blow up the whole building. In a crisis, Liam was the calmest. He analyzed the situation coolly. They only knew we would be in that room, so the bomb should only be in there. As long as we don't appear in the crowd, we'll be safe. His calm analysis gradually calmed Cassandra down. She took a deep breath, her eyes darkening. You're right. The next second, Cassandra clenched her fists, a murderous glint in her eyes. I can't believe their target included me. It seems they want to go to war with the Thorne family. That makes things easier, doesn't it? The bigger the mess, the harder it will be for Lord Charles to clean up, Liam said with a provocative smirk, looking even more pleased than before. If it had just been him, that was one thing. But now Cassandra's life had been threatened as well. If Lord Charles didn't punish them for this, things would get very interesting indeed. The moment the explosion sounded, Jessica snapped back to reality. She scrambled up from the floor and looked through the scope again. The windows of the private room across the street were completely shattered. She could see flames scorching the inside. Below, crowds of people were running frantically through the streets. Even from her high vantage point, she could hear their panicked screams. The thrill of firing a gun for the first time, combined with the success of the plan, filled Jessica with exhilaration. She hadn't even had a chance to wonder why the room had exploded when the attic door behind her was kicked open with a thunderous crash. Before Jessica could react, a man in black lunged forward and clamped a hand over her mouth and nose. She tried to struggle, but a sharp pain erupted at the back of her head, and she collapsed into unconsciousness. Armed police units quickly swarmed the restaurant, along with fire trucks, completely sealing off the street. Downstairs, Leo, who was still trying to figure out how to give Chloe his gift, was jolted by the sound from above. His recent training kicked in, and he instantly recognized it as a gunshot. He grabbed Chloe in Carol's arms. Auntie, Chloe, there was an explosion upstairs. We have to get out of here. He instinctively shielded them with his body. Carol froze. Liam and Cassandra are still up there. You two go, I'll go get them. Mom, you go with Leo. I'll get brother Liam and Cassandra. Chloe immediately tried to stop her. Seeing the situation, Leo interjected. I'll go. Chloe and Annie get out first. We don't know what's happening up there. I'm a guy. It's safest if I go. Leo. Chloe's eyes instantly turned red. Don't cry, Leo said quickly. Liam has incredible luck. He'll be fine. I'll go check on them. You two go outside. The police are already here. It's safe out there. With that, he turned and dashed out of the room. Chloe tried to follow, but Carol grabbed her arm. Mom, what are you doing? Let me go. What if there's more danger upstairs? What about Leo and my brother and Cassandra? I have to go see. Chloe cried, desperate. Chloe, calm down. Carol remained rational. She held Chloe's arm tightly, her voice firm. If we go up there now, we'll just be in the way. If something really is happening, won't we be captured just as easily? Listen to me. We go outside first. Haley and the others are out there. We need a rendezvous with the Thorne family security. In a crisis, Carol was surprisingly level-headed. She had heard about Chloe's previous kidnapping, how she had been used to threaten Liam. Right now, they didn't know the full situation. If this commotion was orchestrated by their enemies, going upstairs would be like walking into a trap. Leo's connection to them wasn't as deep. Even if someone was targeting Liam, they were less likely to abduct him. Hearing her mother's reasoning, Chloe gradually calmed down. Her face was pale as she nodded. Okay, we'll go outside first and meet up with the bodyguards. That's right, Carol nodded, pulling Chloe along as they joined the stream of fleeing diners. Outside, the police had set up a cordon. The two of them slipped into the crowd and escaped, meeting Haley at the other end of the street. The moment they saw her, Haley rushed over, her face fraught with anxiety. Where are the boss and Mr. Lynn? We don't know. We weren't in the same room, Carol answered quickly. Seeing the Thorne bodyguards nearby, her pounding heart finally settled a bit. She turned to Haley. Haley, do you know what's going on? I have no idea. Haley shook her head, her expression worried. The boss didn't tell me anything beforehand. She just said she and Mr. Lynn were coming here for dinner. I never thought something like this would happen. As she spoke, she saw the worry on Carol and Chloe's faces and quickly tried to comfort them. Ma'am, Miss Chloe, don't worry. This isn't like back home. Riots can happen here sometimes. Maybe it was caused by someone else. But the timing is too coincidental. How could something be this coincidental? Carol wasn't reassured at all. If she had known this would happen, she never would have agreed to eat separately. Now she and Chloe were safe, but Liam and Cassandra were missing. Seeing Chloe on the verge of tears, Carol took a deep breath. She knew if she showed her panic, Chloe would only become more frantic. She forced herself to be strong. Chloe, don't worry. Your brother and Cassandra are so smart. They'll be okay. We'll just wait in the car. But Cassandra's pregnant, and brother Liam's leg isn't healed yet. Without us, how are they supposed to get down? Chloe's eyes were red, tears welling up. With the explosion, the elevators would be out of service. How could they get down the stairs? Hearing this, Haley quickly added, this building has a dedicated accessible ramp. Getting down shouldn't be a problem. Just then, her phone vibrated. Signaling for them to be quiet, Haley answered the call. Mr. Thorne. On the other end, Caleb Thorne's voice boomed. I heard there was an explosion in Chinatown. I can't reach Cassandra. Haley, what is going on? Are Cassandra and Liam with you? Haley bit her lip, her face pale. The boss and Mr. Lynn. Where are they? Haley, weren't you with Cassandra? This time, it was Catherine Thorne's frantic voice, trembling with panic. Haley's heart lurched. She clenched her jaw. The explosion. It was at the place where the boss and Mr. Lynn were having dinner. What? Catherine's vision went black, and she nearly fainted. Fortunately, Caleb was right beside her and caught her. Seeing this, Riley, who was sitting nearby, lost her usual carefree demeanor. Her eyes were red with panic. Mom, what did Haley say? What happened to my sister and brother-in-law? Overcome with anxiety, Catherine couldn't even speak. Caleb remained relatively calm. He took the phone from her and asked Haley, are Cassandra and Liam still inside? Yes. We're downstairs. Mrs. Xia and Miss Chloe are with me, but we haven't seen the boss or Mr. Lynn. They said Leo went up to look for them. Haley answered honestly, not daring to hide anything. My daughter. No, Caleb, we have to go. Evelyn, get the car ready now. I have to go right now. Catherine pushed herself up, her face ashen, pointing at Evelyn, insisting they leave immediately. Catherine, calm down first. Liam isn't that foolish, Caleb said urgently. Seeing his wife determined to go, Evelyn also tried to reason with her. That's right, Mrs. Thorne. Mr. Lynn told me before that they might have anticipated this. They might have already found a safe place to hide. Anticipated it? Caleb's eyes shot up. He stared at Evelyn, his voice sharp. Evelyn, what is this all about? Evelyn's heart trembled. She answered hesitantly, the boss and Mr. Lynn discussed it before. They said they suspected the royal family might try something, so they asked me and Dr. Aiden to keep an eye on things. At this point, Evelyn couldn't hide the truth. They were all family here. There was no need for secrets. They did. Caleb's brow furrowed, his eyes instantly turning cold and fierce. This is ridiculous. Why didn't they tell me? Evelyn swallowed hard. She wasn't a mind reader. How was she supposed to know what they were plotting? Caleb, don't stop me. I have to go see for myself today. That's my daughter, my son-in-law. If you try to stop me, I'll never forgive you. Catherine was frantic, her face flushed as she stood up, tears welling in her eyes. Caleb wanted to object, but seeing his wife's tear-streaked face, he couldn't bring himself to say anything more. As the only one present who was still relatively calm, he took a deep breath. All right, Catherine, I'll go with you. Dad, Mom, I'm going too. Riley shot up from her seat. Riley, you stay home, Caleb said, his tone heavy as he looked at his younger daughter. If anything happens, you can call us. Your mother and I will go first. Don't add to the chaos. Riley bit her lip. Meeting her father's stern gaze, she finally nodded. With Evelyn's report, Caleb felt a bit less worried on the way. He knew both of them too well. They would never treat their own lives as a game. In the past, he might have thought Liam was reckless, but things were different now. The bond between Liam and Cassandra was growing stronger every day. The family had seen it with their own eyes. Under these circumstances, he refused to believe Liam would lead his daughter into danger. Seeing his wife crying silently the entire ride, Caleb couldn't help but offer a gentle word of comfort. Catherine, try not to worry. We'll assess the situation when we get there. How can I not worry? That's my daughter, my child. Catherine was beyond reasoning. Her vision blurred as tears streamed down her cheeks. Seeing her sob so heartbrokenly, Caleb's brow tightened. He put his arm around her shoulders, his face pale, and patted her gently. The scene in Chinatown was pure chaos. The street in front of the restaurant was completely cordoned off by the police, and the crowd was being evacuated in an orderly fashion. But among the evacuees, there was no sign of Liam or Cassandra. One pregnant, one in a wheelchair. More than 10 minutes had passed. If they hadn't come downstairs, where else could they be? Leo. It's Leo. From a distance, Chloe spotted Leo, his face covered in soot, pushing his way through the crowd from the restaurant's main entrance. Everyone's attention snapped to him. Leo ran over, climbing into the car and gasping for breath. Leo, how is it? Where are my brother and Cassandra? Where did they go? Chloe demanded the moment he was inside. All eyes were on him. Leo, still catching his breath, managed to say, I didn't see Liam or Miss Thorne, but in the room that blew up, I saw 2 char bodies. He swallowed hard, clearly hesitant to say the words out loud. What? Chloe's pupils shrank. She grabbed Leo's arm, her voice desperate. Leo, what did you say? What was in a room? Leo, you can't just say things like that. What did you see? Are you sure that was the room where Liam and Cassandra were eating? Carol also grabbed his arm, questioning him urgently, as if searching for any sliver of hope. The atmosphere in the car dropped to freezing. Leo took a deep breath and said quickly, Annie, Chloe, I don't know which room they were in for sure, but you all saw the crowd coming down. They weren't with them. In that room that exploded. The implication was clear. Everyone understood, but no one wanted to accept it. How could Liam and Cassandra be gone so easily? No, the boss and Mr. Lynn are definitely still alive. Haley said, her voice firm, but the violent trembling of her hands on the steering wheel betrayed her. A short while later, all the guests from the restaurant had been evacuated. Caleb and his group arrived at the scene. After meeting up with Carol and the others outside the police line and learning that Liam and Cassandra had not appeared, Catherine, already on the brink, fainted from the shock. Fortunately, Evelyn was there. Caleb quickly caught his wife and was relieved to hear it was just a fainting spell brought on by extreme stress. Could Liam and Miss Thorne really be? Inside the car, amidst the chaos, Leo stared out the window at the equally chaotic scene outside, muttering in disbelief as if in a daze. Shut up, Chloe snapped. My brother and Cassandra wouldn't be killed by an explosion that easily. Carol also spoke, her expression grim. Leo, don't say such pessimistic things. The boss would never let anything happen. They probably had this all planned. I don't believe anything happened to the boss and Mr. Lynn. Caleb stared intently at the restaurant outside the car window. After a long moment, his gaze shifted to a nearby ambulance. He gave a cold command. Evelyn, go get an oxygen kit from the ambulance. In a crisis, Caleb Thorne was the pillar of strength for everyone present. Evelyn nodded repeatedly, opened the car door, and got out. As her car door opened, many people in the chaotic crowd noticed them. Someone recognized the famous second-in-command of Zenith Corp, Evelyn Reed. Seeing her emerge, a buzz of discussion erupted. Soon, the hashtag Zenith Corp explosion was pinned to the top of the trending lists. All the news about the explosion was now linked to Liam and the person he was with that day, Cassandra Thorne. They've cleared everyone out upstairs. Cassandra, we're probably going to get an earful when we get back, Liam said wryly, looking down at the Thorne family vehicle surrounded by the crowd. Let them yell. Right now, eliminating the threat is the most important thing, Cassandra said coolly. She took out her phone, glanced at it, and a small smile touched her lips. The hashtag is already trending. That was fast, Liam remarked. He looked at the surging crowd below, his eyes narrowing. It looks like Lord Charles probably knows by now, too. Liam's guess was spot on. Not long after the news went viral, Princess Anna discovered it at the royal residence. Father, something's happened to Liam. Anna burst into Lord Charles's study in a panic. Charles, busy with his work, looked up. The mention of Liam's name put him on high alert. What happened? There was an explosion at a Chinese restaurant in Chinatown. Liam and Cassandra were having dinner there today. Anna hurriedly showed him her phone, holding the screen in front of his face. Thump! Charles shot to his feet, a look of shock on his face. He took the phone, carefully reading the news report playing on the screen. A chilling coldness spread through him. What is the situation? Where are Liam and Cassandra? Did they get out? Charles demanded, his voice tight with urgency. Anna's face was pale as she shook her head. Mr. and Mrs. Thorne have already gone to the scene. Mrs. Thorne fainted when she got there. From the looks of it, I'm afraid. If Liam and Cassandra were fine, Catherine Thorne wouldn't have fainted. And Caleb, who was right beside her, wouldn't look so tense if he knew they were safe. But according to the live media reports, both the Thorne and She families were fraught with anxiety. Under these circumstances, it was highly likely something terrible had happened to Liam and Cassandra. Charles understood the implication. His vision swam, his face turning ashen. Quickly, investigate. Find out what happened. Find out who did this. From the moment he had made Liam's identity public, Charles had worried something like this might happen. But he never imagined it would come so soon, or that someone would actually dare to defy the royal family so brazenly. He had just found the son he shared with Eleanor. If anything happened to him now, if the children were put in danger because of his decision, he would never be able to forgive himself. Knowing how anxious Charles was, Anna quickly replied, "I've already sent a lead and his team to investigate. The scene has been cordoned off. I'll tell the chief inspector in charge to report back the moment there's any news. They can't be harmed. Anna, Liam, and Cassandra absolutely cannot be harmed." Charles muttered, slumping back in his chair, his face ghostly white. Anna nodded, fully aware of the gravity of the situation. Several groups were now in motion. On Natalie's side, she saw Ethan walk in with a grave expression and her heart tightened. How did it go? Was it successful? Ethan took a deep breath and said slowly, "It was successful, but when our people went to the attic, they couldn't find Jessica Fong." "What about the contract? Are you saying she ran off with it?" Natalie's brow furrowed, her voice sharp. "I don't think so. She has to come to me to cash it in. I promised her we'd meet downstairs after it was done, but when we went, she wasn't there." Ethan answered honestly. This was one development he hadn't anticipated. "But, and Liam? Is that bastard dead?" Natalie's eyes turned icy. "He's dead. Not even a complete body left," Ethan said, a surge of vengeful satisfaction washing over him. A smirk played on his lips, but a moment later, his expression turned slightly pitiful. "It's a shame about Cassandra Thorne, though. She was a top-tier beauty. To die like that, and with that bastard." The report he received confirmed 2 charred bodies were found at the scene. Given their appearance and the location, it was almost certain it was them. Although the scene was chaotic and the identities hadn't been officially confirmed, the fact that they hadn't come down and that their families were in a state of panic below was telling. Others might not know, but Ethan and Natalie, who knew their location beforehand, were certain. Hearing this, Natalie frowned and said gravely, "Ethan, let this be the first lesson I teach you in life. Never feel pity for your enemies, because you never know what methods they would use against you if you weren't prepared." This time, they had anticipated and designed the attack. Liam and Cassandra had no time to react. If, by some miracle, one of them had known their plan, it wouldn't have gone so smoothly, and they would have been the ones facing Lord Charles's wrath. At his mother's words, Ethan's expression hardened. He nodded heavily. "Yes, Mother. I understand." "Good." Natalie's expression softened. She looked at her son, a smile suddenly appearing on her face. "Ethan, now is the perfect time for you to build a better relationship with the Thorne family. Their eldest daughter is dead, and the family is grieving. I'm sure Riley is devastated. If you don't go and comfort her now, when will you?" Ethan's eyes lit up. He understood immediately. "Yes, Mother. I'll go find Riley right now," he said eagerly and rushed out. Watching her son's hurried departure, Natalie couldn't help but laugh. Her son marrying into the Thorne family. That was a proper, well-matched union. Liam was just an illegitimate child. What was he? Thankfully, Liam was dead now. Once her son got close to Riley and gained control of the Thorne family's assets, what was there to fear? The royal succession would be his. The next heir to the throne will be Ethan. Natalie sneered at the sweet photo of herself and Anna on her desk, her face twisting into a terrifyingly sinister expression. "My dear sister, this is what you get for always siding with others. It's your own fault you won't be the heir. Stanton Estate. Miss Riley, you can't go out. Mr. Thorne gave specific orders for you to wait at home for them to return. The scene over there is so chaotic. What if something happens to you?" Paige was frantic, blocking Riley's path, refusing to let her leave the mansion. Seeing Paige obstructing her, Riley's expression darkened. "Paige, my sister and brother-in-law's lives are on the line. Haven't I just wait here for them? And so what if it's chaotic? Do you think I'm afraid to die?" It wasn't about being afraid to die. Seeing her words being twisted, Paige also grew anxious. Forgetting her place, she scolded Riley sharply. "Riley, can you please stop this? Your parents have already gone. Don't you know why they didn't want you to go? Can you stop causing trouble at a critical moment like this? What if you're one of their targets too?" Paige had never spoken to Riley so sternly. On one hand, Riley was her employer, and their relationship was mostly that of a boss and subordinate. On the other, Paige had always seen Riley as a younger sister. It was because she saw her as a sister that she didn't hesitate to scold her now. Normally, it wouldn't matter, but at such a critical moment, Riley was still acting so recklessly. Paige truly couldn't take it anymore. Being reprimanded by Paige for the first time, Riley froze on the spot, her eyes instantly welling up with tears. She stared at Paige, then let out a loud sob. Realizing she had been too harsh, Paige bit her lip and quickly tried to comfort her. Riley, listen to me. Your parents are at the scene. If anything happens, Evelyn and Haley are there too. We don't know what the other side wants yet. If you go, and something happens, do you think they'll be able to worry about Cassandra or you? Seeing Riley crying her heart out, Paige's heart softened, and her tone became gentle. Miss Riley, the estate is the safest place right now. The Thorne family's bodyguards are outside. You're safest here. I have to ensure your safety. She knelt, placing a hand on Riley's shoulder. Riley slowly looked up, her small face streaked with tears. She looked at Paige through blurry eyes, then sniffled loudly. I know. Riley sobbed, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. She stopped her tantrum. But, Paige, I hate you. Hearing the shift in how she addressed her, Paige knew Riley was just speaking out of anger. Faced with this usually pampered young woman, Paige couldn't maintain her stern tone. All right, I know you hate me. Let's go sit over there, okay? I'll wait with you. We'll wait for your father to come back, and then we can go out, all right? Though her expression was one of reluctance, Riley obediently stood up and followed Paige to the sofa. Seeing Riley sobbing uncontrollably, Paige sighed. She was about to get her a glass of water when a maid rushed in. Miss, a car has arrived. They say it's a friend of Miss Thorne's, a Mr. Ethan Vance. Should we let him in? The maid asked anxiously, holding her phone, clearly on a call with the guards at the gate. Ethan Vance? What's he doing here? Riley tensed up, looking at Paige with a helpless expression. Paige had heard about the history between Ethan and Riley. If it were anyone else, they could just turn them away. But Ethan was royalty. Mishandling this could be complicated. She gritted her teeth and looked at Riley. Riley, should we let him in? He's from the royal family. Maybe they have some news. Right now, the mansion was the safest place. The Thorne family was vast and powerful. Years ago, Caleb had trained a team of covert guards. When they moved to the UK, he had transferred them over, and they were now stationed around Stanton Estate. So inside the estate, they were perfectly safe. Hearing Paige's suggestion, Riley, who had initially wanted to refuse, nodded repeatedly. Fine, let him in. Okay. With the order given, Ethan's car was soon allowed onto the estate grounds. It pulled up to the front of the mansion, and Ethan rushed out. The moment he entered the villa, Riley asked anxiously, Ethan, did Lord Charles send you with a message? How are my sister and brother-in-law? Ethan first scanned the living room. Seeing only Riley and Paige, he breathed a sigh of relief, then said with a hint of apology, My grandfather sent me to tell you. Miss Thorne, she... What about her? She and my brother-in-law, they've been rescued, right? Riley blurted out. Ethan had prepared a whole speech of condolences, but at the sharp mention of brother-in-law, his face darkened. He stared at Riley and said, without a trace of hesitation, They're both dead. Crash. The teacup in Paige's hand slipped and shattered on the floor. Riley's eyes widened in disbelief. She stared at Ethan, shocked. What did you say? How is that possible? Her voice was shrill, filled with utter disbelief. Ethan steeled himself and said coldly, Yes, they're dead. The explosion was in the room where they were eating. Haven't you seen the news? As he spoke, his gaze shifted to the television across the living room, which was still cycling through the day's top stories. The screen was currently locked on the Chinatown restaurant bombing. Receiving a definitive answer, Riley's vision went black, and she nearly collapsed. Paige rushed forward and managed to catch her just in time. Seeing Riley on the verge of fainting, Ethan panicked. He hurried forward, reaching out to support her, but Paige slapped his hand away. Ethan froze, then said softly, Riley, I'm so sorry about your sister. But don't worry, I'm here. I won't let anyone hurt you. Riley wasn't listening. Her brother-in-law, Liam, and her sister, dead. How could that be possible? In her mind, her brother-in-law was her hero, an idol she looked up to. No matter what happened, he always handled it with ease. Even when facing that monster Sylvia Shaw, he had survived such a desperate situation. How could he die so randomly? And her sister was the most capable person in the world. How could they die so easily? Riley, seeing her face still etched with disbelief, Ethan knew this was his chance. He rushed forward again, determined to pull her into his arms and comfort her. However, smack, a sharp, stinging pain erupted on Ethan's face. He stared at Riley in disbelief. Riley, why did you hit me? Tears streaming down her face, Riley glared at Ethan, her small fists clenched. Get out, she screamed, her voice choked with rage. Get out of my house. Ethan was stunned. Riley, why? I came to comfort you. I didn't expect this to happen to your sister. Why do you always reject me?